All right. Good evening and welcome to the March 30th, 2021 special meeting for the Board of Adjustments. Will you please join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have no administrative items on the agenda. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. That will roll us right into our first application for John O'Connor at 417 South Lake Drive.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, can I just do one quick administrative thing?
Oh, please, Mr. Kennedy.
In conjunction with the Open Public Meetings Act, this will be our Open Public Meetings Act statement. And this is a special meeting of the Belmar Zoning Board. And importantly, we need to confirm that notice of this meeting was advertised in the borough's 2 official newspapers, and it was at least 48 hours in advance of the meeting. And information, the agenda to the extent known was printed, and most importantly, the login information for the meeting were printed as well. And also, as is standard, the special notice was filed with the borough clerk, and it was placed on the bulletin board at Town Hall, and was also placed on the door outside of Town Hall, visible from the inside. And it was also placed on the municipal website. So based upon that, it would be my opinion that this is a lawfully convened special meeting. So that's just number one. So now with regard to the O'Connor application, is there anyone here who had any questions or comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received? And if they do, they can raise their raise hand icon, or they can contact our amazing board secretary at
clerk@belmar.com.
clerk@belmar.com. And so before we, while we're waiting for that, we will mark into the record, Mr. Chairman, what we as a board have before us. So A1 will be the minor land use zoning permit, and that's dated September 15th, 2020. A2 will be the development application. And A3 will be the Borough of Belmar application checklist. And A4 will be the variance plan prepared by KBA Engineering, and that is dated October 11th, 2020. And then A5 is, I guess, the revised variance plan prepared by KBA Engineering, last dated March 16th, 2021. And before I forget, we will swear in Ted Bianchi. Ted, you are the zoning official and construction official. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Okay. And April, has anyone come in and asked any questions about the notice?
No, but I do have someone that raised their hand, so we're going to see what they want. And then I want to put on the record that Mr. Ross is present now.
Oh, very good.
Mary, did you have a question?
Yes, hi. I was just wondering, because there was only 5 board members, would we be guaranteed next time?
We have 6 now.
Oh, we have 6. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mary, has anyone, I'm sorry, April, has anyone else asked any questions about the notice?
No.
Okay, so that having been said, Mr. Chairman, for the record, the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order. So it'd be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight.
Excellent. Let's let it roll.
All right, so Mr. O'Connor, we'll get you sworn in. And I see Joe Kosiuba here too.
I just can't get my camera to work. How bad is that?
That's okay. We can hear you.
Okay, so what we'll do is, Mr. O'Connor, if you could just state your name and address, please.
Sure, John O'Connor, 417 South Lake Drive, Belmar, New Jersey.
Okay. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes,
Okay. And then why don't we just swear in Joseph Kosia? But Joe, why don't you just state your name and business address, please?
Joseph Kashuba, Kociuba, KBA Engineering Services, Manasquan, New Jersey,
And you're testifying tonight in your capacity as?
as both a professional engineer, professional planner.
All right. Good evening. If you could raise your right hand, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Okay. And Mr. O'Connor, if I could just ask you a couple real basic questions, we'll get the ball rolling here. We're talking about the property at 417 South Lake Drive, correct?
correct,
And are you the owner of that property?
correct.
And how long have you owned it, roughly?
1 year, February of last year.
Okay. And there's a single family home on the site, it looks like?
Correct.
And do you live at the property?
No, it's a second home.
Okay. So you use it as a second home. Okay. And is there, just so I get is there any porch there now?
I'm sorry, is there any what?
Any front porch at the site right now?
No, there's an existing side porch.
Okay. So why don't you tell the board, or if you want to have Mr. Kosiba tell the board what it is you're looking to do and what relief you need and the details of what you're looking to do.
Sure. I'm gonna pull up you guys have the exact public notice of what the permitted variances were and what we're asking for. Is that right? Or do I need to state that?
You or Mr. Kosiba can state it in
Yeah,
the midst of his testimony.
I'll discuss the specifics of the variances, John, but why don't you just explain just basically what you're proposing and why you're proposing it.
Sure. If you and Joe will go into more detail, but the lot is a pretty peculiar shaped lot. And there's no real backyard. And the driveway, it's got a driveway, but we're trying to create a little bit more outdoor living space by just building out a front porch. There's no real rear yard. It's kind of a side yard. You can see it butts up against the Belmar First Aid Squad. There's like, there's parts where there's 5 and 10 feet. So what we try to do is we're just looking to put in a front porch, and I think we were allowed 9 feet, and we're asking for an extra foot in variance, just literally based on how we set up a table and whatnot, where we think we need it for clearance and people to walk by. It looks like it's going to line up very similar to the house right next door to us in terms of view. It's going to be very similar to that porch, except we have an existing side porch that we're going to tie into. So that's it, just an open front porch that's typical that you see in Belmar with, rails and spindles with a porch coming down just on the front side of the house, on that front elevation.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, did you want to hold questions and go right to Mr. Kusioba first?
Don't say it, I knew I was on mute. Yes, we'll move right forward with Mr. Kashuba.
Okay.
Good evening. I don't know, Mr. Kennedy, do you need my qualifications?
Sure, just real briefly, you've testified before us before.
I have a licensed engineer, licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, master's degree, bachelor's degree from Rowan University in civil and structural engineering. Have testified before numerous boards, including this one on multiple occasions.
Great. And Mr. Chairman, just there were a couple new board members, so it's probably good to have even the regular people who appear before us to recite the certification, so we're all on the same page. So thanks. All right, so Joe, why don't you go ahead?
Wonderful. So what we have, and I'll share my screen here so you can see the plot plan prepared by my office. This is the latest plan, A5 of the exhibits. You can see the unique shape of the lot. It's an existing undersized lot in the R75 zone. 9,000 is required on a corner. It's 6,034 square feet. It's also deficient on frontage on D Street. It's in a unique location on the bend of D Street and South Lake Drive. There's only actually 3 homes along this side of South Lake Drive. It's an existing 2-story single-family dwelling. facing towards South Lake Drive next to the Belmar First Aid Squad. The applicant, as he indicated, is proposing to construct a one-story porch along the frontage of the dwelling where right now there really is no porch. There's a very small overhang at the front of the house, probably 4 foot in width, something. So want something a lot more commensurate with the area typical to the Belmar architecture. By virtue of that, we are requesting a front yard setback variance of 9.16 feet. The average through here is 10.85 feet, but specifically the house immediately to the east has a front setback of 9.8, so this would be in line with that. But again, after laying out the porch, discussing it with the architect and taking a look at the space available to enjoy the outdoor area, it was decided that we needed just a little bit more space, so we're requesting that setback variance. The application will require 3 specific variances: the front yard setback for the porch. That increase also slightly increases the building coverage to 32.35%, where 30% is permitted, and the lot coverage is 64.1%, where 55% is permitted. In my opinion, the variances can be granted under both the C1 and C2 criteria. The C1 criteria, the hardship criteria, where by reason of extraordinary exceptional situation uniquely affecting a specific piece of property, the strict application of this act would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties. In this particular case, the house exists. The front yard setback is there. So in order to extend a porch from that, we're limited to where the front face of the home is today. There's also the lot is undersized for the location. Again, it's not 6,000 square feet where 9 is required. All the surrounding properties are developed and it is a very unique shape. So as a result, that dwelling location creates a pre-existing condition that makes it difficult to construct a conforming porch that is also very usable. In addition, under the C2 criteria, the flexible C, as we say, where the purposes of planning would be promoted and outweigh any detriments, I feel the application of the variances can be granted. Under the C2 criteria, this application promotes the general welfare and promotes a desirable visual environment. Porches are given preferential treatment in your ordinance. They're permitted to deviate the front yard setback, the intent being to encourage single-story porches in the front of homes for that look, to have the Belmar type of architecture. This porch will make that dwelling more commensurate with the area, more commensurate with the architecture, and promote the outdoor enjoyment and neighborhood fabric. So that does promote the public good as well as a desirable visual environment. The porch will have no detrimental impact upon the public good. Again, it's going to be just a few inches forward of the neighbor immediately to the east. It's not uncommon in these types of situations to exceed the building coverage. Again, this exceedance is slight and is a result directly of the porch providing the benefit of the porch. And it is a unique location in that there's only a few homes to judge it on. And again, we'll be in line generally with the porch to the east. Their existing porch, as I said, 9.8, where we're proposing, we have our average table here on the plan, 9.8 where 9.16 is proposed. There'll be no detrimental impact to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. As I indicated, porches are provided some preferential treatment in the ordinance and will certainly benefit the look of the area. So based upon that, I believe the benefits of the variances outweigh any detriments, and the application will not have any substantial impact upon the zone plan or zoning ordinance. That would conclude my testimony unless the board obviously has any questions or comments.
We'll hold our questions to the end. Was that the end of the presentation? How about you, Mr. O'Connor? Is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I took a bunch of photos on Google Earth of homes that had, that had worse lot coverages than what we're requesting. Do you guys need to see something like that, or is that like a waste of time for you?
You're welcome to submit them, but it might be a little difficult if we can't see your camera.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna share my screen. I think it's fine to share my screen, but I think it might be a waste of time. It's up to you guys. I don't know if people typically do that, but I just took homes in the area that have front porches and homes that are on worse lot coverage than we have, and even on the setback where the steps from the porch are right on top of the curb, and we're still gonna have a few feet of curb space.
Well, why don't you try and, this is Kevin, the board attorney. Why don't you try sharing your screen and we'll just mark this in, but you'll have to submit these to April tomorrow. You can send it to her in electronic format if that's okay.
Sure.
And for the record, Mr. Malango has joined the meeting.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Joe, the architectural, do you guys need to see the architectural elevations of what it's gonna look like? Or is that's been submitted? That's not something
We
we showed
have
you?
that. Yep, we have that. I guess we
Okay.
just need the pictures if you want them introduced.
Great.
Yeah, and I can share my screen and show that if the board would like to see it. But I'd say let's see the exhibit that you're indicating with the coverages and things to give the board a flavor of what exists, and then we can always put that up.
I'm just on 3 different screens, so I want to make sure you guys can see it. Can you see the email now with the picture in red?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna mark this aerial photograph as A6, and Mr. Conley, you'll just have to get a copy of that to April.
Sure. So can you see my mouse moving?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
All right, so this is my home here on 417. This is South Lake Drive. We're on the corner lot here. Where I circled in red is where homes have lot coverages that exceed what we're requesting here. That's just, I only did in the area, over on 14, 15, and 16th Street, it's materially worse, but I just wanted to show within a couple of blocks of where we were. And additionally, as Joe alluded to, it's easier to see here, that backyard, how tight it is from where the shed is and how the driveway loops around.
Correct. So promoting an outdoor space in the front would certainly provide a benefit as well as a architectural improvement.
Right. And then these houses with checks show the setbacks from the curb, how ours would be at least to where that is or further back. On 8th Avenue, here's our house here, and then these homes here, the setbacks, they're worse than from what I checked and measured with a couple of people that we know are worse than what we're providing here.
When you say worse, was any of that surveyed in or I mean, we're talking about
No,
9.16, you're saying those are less than 9.16 feet?
correct,
And that's just through your informal survey?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. So we did what we were supposed to with the average setback of the homes that were on that. I forget what the exact, Joe has it. But the
3
home
homes,
right to the right of us on 415 that I have circled here.
Correct. The average here would be 413, 415 creates the average setback. And as you can see, 413 is somewhat unique in that it's turned and facing more towards 8th Ave and therefore set further back.
I'm not going to take up much more of your time with that. That's
Thank you,
all.
Mr. O'Connor. And was that it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, and then just before we open it up to board questions, I just wanted to confirm, it looks on A5, the revised variance plan, the porch is not going to extend across the entire front of the property. But some of the pictures appear to show that it does extend across the front of the property. I'm sorry, like the front of the house all the way past the, I guess, the existing porch that faces.
Correct. Yeah, so we I kind of have my wife to blame on that. We keep changing where the house is, how far the porch is going to go. So we try to just get the variance as if we were going all the way across the entire front. But you know, the more recently, I think she just wants to stop it at the front porch. So at the end of the day, the worst case scenario, if anything, we're going to reduce what we're asking for, but we're trying to get a variance because she keeps changing her mind on the length of the porch in the front of the house. So the variance request is for the entire length of the front, and that's it, which extends into that side porch on the east elevation. But some of the photos you might see, when I originally asked Joe, we were only going to the side porch on the screened in on the west elevation. We were going up to there in the front as opposed to extending through there. So all along, we're going to tie into that east elevation side porch. That's happening the whole way through. But with the original request is all the way down to that west elevation, is extended all the way through next to that screened in porch, the side that which is a screened in porch there. Extend it through there, but it looks like we might end up ending it right at that about 10 feet less. But unfortunately, you know, my wife has gone back and forth on this, so I thought we would just get the approval to do the whole thing, and then kind of, if we're shortening it, I don't know what, you know, on that front, if that's an issue or not.
Well, I'm just a little confused, and pardon me if I didn't follow that the way you described it. And maybe Mr. Kashuba, you could clear this up.
Yeah, so.
The variance he's asking is just the shaded porch. That's
Correct.
exactly what he's
The shaded
asking for?
porch here is the area that he is seeking a relief for, which I've just colored in purple.
Okay.
What are the dimensions, Joe?
The dimension, the porch is 51 feet wide, approximately 51.06.
51.06 feet wide by?
At maximum depth, 10.75 feet.
All right, so it's going to be, that's it, or it's not going to exceed that?
It's not going to exceed that. What the applicant's indicating is he may pull this back here. But we're not amending our application tonight to indicate that, but just to show the board. And of course, now the computer doesn't want to play nice. He may only do that kind of shaded area, but we're seeking relief for the entirety. And then they will figure out architecturally which they prefer. But this western side is an existing screen porch. They may or may not extend that porch across the front of that. I know the roof lines get kind of odd there. So,
okay.
That
so
might
the maximum that you're saying is, and we'll find out how the board feels about this, but the maximum the porch will be is approximately 51 feet or 51.06 feet wide by 10.75 feet deep, and it's not going to be
Correct.
more than that.
Correct.
All right.
Now I understand why you bring an engineer to speak a little more coherently on something like this.
Yeah, and just to note, and I don't know how some of the other board members feel about this, but we do get a little uncomfortable approving something that's not the exact plan of what you're going to build. Mr. Kashuba, other than you're telling us the applicant may wait to decide whether he's going to trim off, you know, a diagonal off the corner of the west end of that porch. It's
Right.
what was the main driver for that decision?
The applicant can certainly provide some information on that.
Yeah, that's more of the look. My wife just thought it was a little overkill with the porch, and the people next to us didn't do it. So she really likes the way they look. So I'm pretty, you know, the decision has been made that we're going to have it shorter, that it's not going to extend to 51 feet across. It's about 11 feet less. So it would be 50 by 10 3/4. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 40. So yeah, that section that we're talking about is 11 feet.
Right, so it'll be 40 feet.
Reduced
all the
to
way.
40 feet in length. If the board likes, I do I can pull up a photo of what the neighboring porch looks like, or a street view that I can submit to April. So you can kind of see what the applicant is talking about as far as the architecture.
Yeah, I think that'd be useful at some point, and also an amended plan, so we know exactly what we're looking at.
Yeah, we can certainly submit an amended plan. Let me bring this in.
Sure, and while you're doing that, just one other point of clarification. It looks like there's a railing on top of the porch, but this is a one-story porch, and that railing is more or less decorative on the roof.
The intent is that it'll be a one-story porch. I know there was some indication by the applicant, he was looking into potentially putting the second floor on it, which the ordinance does permit. But my understanding from the applicant is they do not intend to do that. It'll be a one-story porch, but Mr. O'Connor can certainly confirm that.
That is correct. Porch, and I apologize for this because we've gone through a few iterations, but we've made a final decision that it's going to look pretty much identical to what you're looking at right now.
So what's on the screen is a
415
Google Street View look of the adjacent home to the east, 415 South Lake. You can see their front porch extends across the two-story section of the home, but the small western one-story portion, the porch does not continue across that. That's the look that the applicant is now seeking. And we can slide over, and I'll provide screenshots of both of these to April for the record, but very, very similar architecture. You can see the very small covering that exists today. And the intention would be to extend that porch across the easterly, say 3/4 of the home, would be 40 feet in length, and not extend a porch in front of this one-story section on the westerly side of the structure.
And then just for the record, we'll mark as A7 that picture of the adjacent home, which Joe will send us April a screenshot of, and A8 will be the picture of the subject home. Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much for clearing that up. With that, we're going to open it up to board questions, and we'll start with Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good evening, everybody. I was wondering if you're going to me first, Mr. Chairman. So thank you. I appreciate the presentation that was given today. It's quite clear, you know, what it is you're trying to do. It is just the external construction, correct?
Correct. It's just the porch.
Okay. And since this is question period, not comment period, my question is, would you consider or have we decided that you are going to amend the application and then shorten that length of the porch to subtract off that 11 feet we were just talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And so then for that, you would then be planning to be submitting new drawings, correct?
Yes, we could submit new drawings. We would respectfully request if it was the board's flavor to allow an approval this evening, we can certainly provide amended plans as a result of the resolution compliance process. Obviously, if the board has a concern with that, we will certainly do whatever the board requests. But
yeah, that's kind of where I was going. Is that I wanted to just from a process point of view, just go to Mr. Kennedy and say, you know, if we are choosing to move forward and voting on these old set of plans, that the contingency would be we're not going to adopt the resolution whenever it's ready, if it's at the next meeting. I don't know if that's going to be too soon, but we would want to have the opportunity to see the revised plans prior to voting on the resolution. And if the plans are not revised, we would be able to retract our vote tonight. Mr. Kennedy, is that clear? I'm just trying to make sure that
So
we let them go forward to a vote tonight, but not but not, that vote wouldn't be binding until the revised plans are given to us, and we could revoke our decision at the resolution time.
Okay, this is what I would respectfully suggest, and I totally understand your concern. So there's two generally traditional ways of handling this. Let's just, I don't know what you're all thinking, but just assume for the purposes of this discussion, you're inclined to approve the application, and maybe you're not. You're going to hear all the testimony and public comments, but you would either presumably say we're going to approve it, and as one of the conditions would be the plans need to be revised to reflect, what it is. As the chairman indicated, everyone gets a little nervous when we approve something that doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like. So you would either approve it with that condition, or you would say, hey, look, I think I'm totally okay with this, but I need to see revised plans before I sign off on this. I would respectfully be a little hesitant about, voting on it if you wanted to be able to rescind the vote later on. Generally the law suggests that you get in we're a little exposed there, and once we vote, you really can't rescind the vote per se. So if you have a legitimate question about what it's going to look like, I think you just sort of say, hey, let's come back, revise the plans and come back. And, I could,
We have so much work on we have so much work ahead of us. I don't want to gum up the works with
Okay.
type of protocol. So you've answered the question.
But to your point, absolutely.
Faith that the modifications will be made prior
Absolutely.
to the resolution. And
yes.
then if we're not happy with it, we'll just adjourn the resolution until we're happy with it.
You sort of lose, just so I understand, because you sort of lose once by law, we have to, after we approve something, you have to adopt the resolution. And theoretically, if you don't adopt it within 45 days, the aggrieved applicant can take us to court, compelling us, and the law says the town has to pay.
I get it. So then I'll put the onus on you, Mr. Kennedy, to just make sure that the actual dimensions
absolutely
are reflected in the summary and resolution, and
yes,
you feel comfortable, absent the accurate plan, that what they're going to build is going to be in line with what we're going to approve tonight.
Yes, I mean, if that is the inclination of the board, it would be 100% crystal clear.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fitzgerald. Next up, we'll go to Mr. Krieg.
Hi, I was looking at a aerial view of the house and the property, and I didn't see the elevated block patio with the pergola in that aerial view, and I actually don't see it in the photograph. So I'm not sure. Like, when was that block patio added? To the west of the house, there's a block patio that's elevated.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Krieg, we added that over the summer, the block patio in the back with a drain along the fence. That was added in July and August.
Was that added? Did you need to get a building permit to do that, or was that not needed there?
It was not needed there.
Not needed there. Is that then included in your impervious coverage?
It is shown on our plans and was included in our calculations, yes.
Okay. Do you rent this house, or is it just your house for your use only?
No, this is for our use only. We're there the whole summer.
Okay, and you did state that this is going to be a first floor porch only, no second floor, no railing around the second floor.
Correct.
And we saw pictures of the house to the east. I believe you had your planner had shown us pictures of that house to the east, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, that was that. And the length of the porch ultimately is going to be somewhere around 40 feet.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. I believe that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Next up, we'll go to Mr. Ross.
Thank you. So just a follow-up question. You said no railing around the second floor. So does that mean then that the roof line to the, I guess, when you're facing the house to the left, toward the east, there is going to remain the little triangular roof line, or would that now be just a flat roof?
The roof line on that eastern side is just gonna come forward. So
forward.
as that porch comes forward, the back of that roof line will extend up, probably about 3 feet. The peak will be just slightly higher, and then it will come forward to match the rest of the porch.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I know it's not comment period. I guess my concern, I feel a little more comfortable now that there's not going to be a railing up there, because I don't think anything could have precluded, a future homeowner from just putting a door in and having a walkout balcony. So I think that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Ms. Steets, you're up next. Oh, if you're there.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zinovich.
My one question is about the staircase. How many stairs will it be coming from the front there? The drawing, it looks like, will the porch come all the way out to the existing lower set of stairs, or do you have to put in new stairs to make it taller to be able to reach?
We definitely need to install new stairs. The porch will extend over that upper set of stairs and go out somewhat into the landing that's there today. The proposed porch will have a number of steps that extend from the front of it. So we do need to construct a new set of stairs, which will come down to along the block work that's there today. It does not exceed the property line, but it'll be, pretty close to the property line.
It'll, Mr. Tozenovich, it's gonna look like the house next door in terms of 4 steps, little landing, and then 4 steps.
Could you please show that photo again?
Certainly. So as you can see in the photo, this is the neighbor to the east with the steps that come down. The steps, you don't see it here, is obviously property lines, you don't see them on the ground, but these steps are only about a foot or 2 off of the front property line. But obviously further off of the sidewalk, given the width of the right of way. So it would look, in concert with the neighborhood and very, very similar to what exists here.
Okay, thank you. I guess one other question I figured I'd ask you, since that's this time. Your neighbor there has a lot of large bushes, and are you going to be planting any additional plantings of plants or small trees, since you're going to be covering your lot more with impervious?
Is there going to be landscaping in front of the porch? Is that your question?
Yeah, essentially.
I would
or
imagine
to the side
so.
in the corner there.
Yeah, we're gonna have stone around the pillars, around the footings, and then all the way around that. It's gonna match what we have there now. It's gonna be a continuous stone. So there might be some landscaping in the front, I would imagine, similar to what's there now, smaller ones. I haven't really thought about the bushes that'll be in front of it. Is there a prerequisite that you guys, how would you want it to look? In terms of, are you thinking that it's too large, the bushes that are there now, or you would want to see landscaping in the front?
I'm asking just because bushes and small trees help to absorb stormwater. And you don't have many from what I can see on the property. And to me, the neighbor's house looks beautiful. And I think the landscaping looks beautiful also. So I'm just asking if you're
The game plan is to do that, but we didn't do anything there now because we were putting a porch in. Does that make sense?
So we can, I think what the applicant's saying is we will certainly provide some landscaping around the front of the porch.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Zenovich. Mr. Malengo, were you up? Or you're not up yet? I'm going to go ahead with my questions. Mr. Kashuba, could you talk to me a little bit? I heard a couple things. I guess the average front yard setback.
Yeah, so there's only two other houses that front on South Lake Drive to create the average. The house immediately to the east, and then the house further east from that. The house immediately to the east has a front setback of 9.8. The house further east of that, 413 South Lake, has a front yard setback of 11.9. That creates an average of 10.85. We're requesting a front yard setback of 9.16, approximately 1.7 feet closer than the average, but more in line with the house directly to the east, which has a front yard setback of 9.8.
So next to you is 9.8. You're asking for 9.16. It's only a couple inches. Is it a deal breaker to shorten it to the 9.8?
For me,
I personally would like to. I'd personally like to see that porch extend only to the same distance the house to the east has. Is that something that could be done?
We'll leave that to the applicant.
It's kind of the whole purpose of why we're asking for the variance here from what was allowed. We were allowed it, this was, is it going to be a deal breaker? No, but this is really the whole point of waiting 6 months for this, is to get this variance and to get here for that extra 6 inches that we're asking for. It matters in terms of, again, if you look at the property, we would want to put a larger porch on, but it's not going to look right. There's no backyard. So we're trying to get, some living space there. Every inch is going to matter. So especially since we're now truncating that 11 feet in length. So I would prefer not to, but is it a deal breaker? Again, we've literally waited 6 months to get to this point and to have this meeting. So no, but I'm, you tell me.
Well, I'm only one vote, and I'm just asking you the questions at this point. Mr. Kashuba, does the porch as proposed cause any problems with traffic or sight lines coming around that corner?
No, in my opinion, it certainly does not. You do have a very wide right of way there. So the porch is at 9 feet, but in reality, back from the curb, it's probably closer to 25 feet. And an AASHTO site triangle is 15 feet back from the sight line. So certainly no site triangle issues or anything at that location.
Thank you. And one other thing I heard from your presentation, I think when you were talking about the variance, you said something about porches are given preference.
Your ordinance allows a porch to extend, I believe it's 10 feet forward of the home, 8 feet into a front yard setback area, as long as it's a one-story porch. So, but that's what I mean by the ordinance gives deference to it, meaning that the home has to be at a certain front yard setback, but you're permitted to put a one-story porch 8 feet forward of that, kind of promoting that look, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. And how about stormwater runoff off the porch roof? Did you discuss that?
We didn't. The stormwater runoff, it's a small area, but obviously if the board had a concern, we could certainly put a dry well in to capture that.
If you could put a dry well in to capture that, I'd accept that as a condition of the application.
If that's makes it more palatable to the board for those couple extra inches, I'm sure the applicant would be willing to do so.
I'm willing to make that trade. So just for my benefit, can we go on record with the applicant saying he's willing to make that a condition of the application?
Sure. Can I understand what exactly that is? Like, how big does that have to be to capture? I mean, existing now, Mr. Grieg, is there's actually no gutters on the house now. And we plan on, so it has to, you have to create a view. Where would we put a catch basin? Like right in the front yard? Like I'm trying to understand where that water is going to be captured, like a dry well, how far down you have to dig for that?
So typically a dry well would capture from the gutters, and we would size it for just the porch expansion. So it would be rather small. We could make it out of just stone. If there was no gutter system on there, it would be very difficult to capture that. We'd have to come up with some other solution. But typically it's captured from a gutter, a rain gutter.
I guess what I'm saying is now I would be guttering the whole house again, right? That's probably where we would go with it. And now we're taking on more water into that space. So we'd have to probably dig a deeper one from, I mean, that is one issue. There's no gutters currently. So
so if there's no gutters, is the indication that we're not planning on having gutters on the porch?
well, now the gutters on the porch are gonna probably carry the entire, that front facade of that porch of the existing roof, right? We're gonna probably now capture all the water from there into the
Correct.
new.
It'll capture a little more area. We will size it appropriately for the porch expansion. And any excess water, as in any drywall we ever install, would be discharged from the drywall, from an overflow point at the drywall.
Okay.
So I think we can design an appropriately sized drywall that's also, appropriate for the expansion you're proposing.
Okay, it is, I'm visioning, some like 5x5 cement thing in the front yard, that's gonna look awful in the ground. I'm just
No, this
missing-
is underground. You and I can discuss this offline, but it's
All right.
underground. You will never see it. Once it's installed, you're not gonna see it.
All good.
All right, so Mr. O'Connor, then you're willing to make that a condition of the application, that you'll install a dry well to the satisfaction of, say, the borough engineer,
Sure.
to capture the front yard runoff, and I guess that would mean guttering the front porch as well.
Yes, to capture the porch expansion.
Thank you. All right, that's it for questions from me. With that, Ted, did we miss anything you wanted to cover?
No, I'm good, John.
All right, thank you. With that,
John, I
we'll-
think you missed me.
oh, hey, Mr. Malengo,
Yes.
you're a non-voting member on this application, I believe, because you didn't go from the very beginning, but we will certainly accept.
Yes, I have two questions.
Thank you.
I guess the question would be for John. The new porch construction is going to be in line with the side porch, so it'll look like a wraparound porch, correct?
Correct, it's gonna be tied in.
Okay. And my other question is, I guess, for Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
If we approve this application without the correct drawing, are we setting a standard for other applications to come in, allowing approval without a corrected drawing?
No, but I mean, this is the most important part. If you all have any questions about what it's going to look like or what it's going to, or the dimensions, then you just say, look, revise the plans and we'll approve it next time. If you're okay with approving it subject to the change, I'm okay with that too. But if you feel at any way hesitant about or unsure about what it's going to look like, I would encourage you to adjourn the meeting and we could come back, and if you're okay, you could tell me, have a resolution done ahead of time so that there'd be no functional delay. You would just adjourn this, and at the next meeting, if you see it and you're happy, you would approve it and you could adopt the resolution that night. And there'd be no functional loss of time to the applicant. But that's totally the board's call. I want you to feel comfortable, and I want you to see if you have any questions in that regard, you just say, look, you got to come back.
Okay, no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo. All right, Ms. Claudio, will you open up the public portion, please?
Sure, please remember to state your name and address before you speak.
Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue. I'd like to
All right, good
comment
evening.
that.
Let me just swear you in, Linda. Good evening.
Okay.
Welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you're providing, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you so much.
So I'd just like to comment that Mr. O'Connor has done a beautiful job creating his pergola in the side yard. when I listen to this application, he has met the criteria for, in my estimation, for a C1 hardship variance. And the C2, because he's beautifying the neighborhood. This is what every house should have in Belmar, a front porch. And if he encroaches 6 inches with farther, I think it's something that would be benefit that whole area as you come around, you know, onto 8th Avenue around the lake. And I hope the board could find it in their heart or in their intellectual analysis to approve this application pending the plans coming before the next meeting as discussed during this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharkus.
Okay, that was it.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll close the public portion, go back out to board comment, right to Mr. Fitzgerald.
Okay, here we go. I agree with the member of the public who commented that, you know, this is definitely in keeping with the traditional architecture. It's a beautiful location that you're in right there, with great views coming from the porch, and it seems like a good enhancement not only to your home but to the aesthetics of the immediate neighborhood. So I would be in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Grigg.
I'm fine with not having the actual print out there, understanding that the whole porch is going to be roughly 40 feet, that the reduction will come from the west side of the porch, that westerly leg of the porch. I'm fine with that and willing to vote on it. I think it's a good idea having front porches on houses. I think it helps the neighborhood, and I think the neighbors become more friendly when you have front porches. So I would be voting in favor of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Mr. Ross.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Gregg. That house screams for a front porch, and you got beautiful views, and you want to be able to enjoy those. And I think the design is nice, and I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Ms. Dietz.
I agree. I want to thank the applicant too. I know it's, you know, sometimes you work on your plans and things change, and sometimes you're asked to make some adjustments and accommodations. And so I do appreciate that. I do think it's going to enhance the neighborhood and the look of it. And in addition to the change of the porch on the west side, if we can incorporate the discussions about capturing that water coming off of that for the porch, that would be great, and I would be in favor of it. And again, as long as we can get all the information, I would be okay voting on it this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Dietz. Ms. Krasanovich.
I think it's a great plan. Also, I really do appreciate the homeowner agreeing to the dry well proposal. I think that's a great solution considering the proposed lot coverage is going to be over 64% for this, but I'd be inclined to approve it as well.
Thank you, Ms. Krasanovich. Mr. Malengo, did you want to offer a comment?
Yes, I'd like to say that with the modifications discussed here, I think it will look nice. And if I was a voting member tonight, I would be in favor of the application.
Thank you. I too am in favor of the application, and I do appreciate the applicant's willingness to work with us on the stormwater runoff. It's important in Belmar. I don't typically like to approve front yard setbacks that exceed the average setback, but in this case, I think it's well worth it, and I think it's going to be a great addition to Belmar and for your house. So thank you very much. All right, Mr. Kennedy, will you summarize, please?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, if this application is going to be approved, some of the conditions of approval would include promises and commitments and compliance with the promises and commitments and representations the applicant's development team made tonight, obviously obtaining all outside approvals and compliance with all building and construction codes. And Mr. Chairman, at the risk of overstepping my bounds, I think sometimes when we do this, we put on similar applications, no enclosure of the porch absent further approval of the board. Is that sort of implied?
We didn't discuss it, but I would like to see that in the resolution if the applicant has no objections.
And I think that was implied. And then what we're going to say is now this will not come out. It'll come out much more perfect in the resolution than I have it written in my notes. But we're going to have the plans revised so as to confirm that the porch dimension approved is going to be 40 feet, roughly 40 feet in length, with the reduction coming in, as Mr. Gregg said, on the western side. And so the plans will be revised to reflect that. And again, to Mr. Fitzgerald's point, if they don't show those plans, ultimately they'll never get the permits that they need from Ted in April. Also, we're just going to confirm that it's a one-story porch, and that let me see. Are we saying that no rail? Are we saying no railing on the top?
That's correct.
Okay, so no railing on the top, the 40 foot in length. And I think there was an implication that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there'll be additional landscaping put in around the front of the porches. Was that a condition, or was that just a suggestion?
I think it's just a suggestion, and respectfully to the board member who asked, it's very difficult for us to enforce that. So we offer it as a suggestion, not necessarily a condition of the application.
So we'll say that, and then we are not. All right, so we're eliminating the request that they reduce the setback by a couple of inches. So we're gonna have this condition that there'd be no violation of the site triangle easement. And then we're gonna have the approval conditioned on successfully addressing the stormwater runoff in a manner approved. The details will be approved by the borough engineer, but basically that's with the installation of a dry well. And then Joe, as is standard, that dry well will need to be installed and maintained in accordance with industry and manufacturing standards. And I guess that by extension includes the gutters for the porch expansion, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have, I think that was it, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
To be clear, there is no site triangle easement. I think it should just state there'll be no impact to the site triangle.
Got it. Thank you. Good point.
No, not that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for summarizing. Can I have a motion to approve the application as summarized by Mr. Kennedy?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Greg. In a second?
I'll second it.
That was Mr. Fitzgerald, I think. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Lisco,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
Ms. Dietz,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Zenovich,
Yes.
Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Congratulations. The application is approved. Good luck, Mr. O'Connor.
That's great. Thank you, everybody, for your patience in getting through it, especially during these times. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Hey, everybody, I would like to take just a 5-minute break. It is 7:13. Let's make it a 7-minute break and be back here at 7:20.
Take a quick roll call. Mr. Lisco,
Here.
Mr. Gregg,
Here.
Ms. Dietz,
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Here.
Mr. Zenovich,
Here.
Mr. Ross,
Here.
and Mr. Malengo.
Here.
Okay, is there anyone else that needs to be up here for your application?
Our architect, Brian
Brian?
Brigzing.
Okay. There you go. Okay, we're all set.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're up to our second application of the night, which is Anthony and Cynthia Longo at 1501 B Street.
Correct.
All right, Mr. Chairman, a couple preliminary things in terms of the notice. If there's anyone in the listening public who had any questions or comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice, please raise your raise hand icon and or contact the board secretary at
Clerk@belmar.com.
I should learn that, but I can't. And so what we're going to do, we'll swear in Ted Bianchi. You are the construction official and zoning officer. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Okay, and then just for the record, we'll mark into as evidence what we as a board have before us. So number one, A1 will be the minor land use zoning permit, and that's dated January 21st, 2021, and there's an attachment to that. And then A2 will be the development application, and that's dated January 28th, 2021. And A3 is, let's see, the floor plans and elevations, and that is prepared by Brian Brzezinskis, and that is dated, let's see, dated January 28th, 2021. And then A4 is the plot plan prepared by KBA Engineering Services, and it's dated January 7th, 2021, last revised January 27th, 2021. April, has anyone come forth and asked any questions about the notice?
No.
All right, so for the record, Mr. Chairman, the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order. So it'd be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed. And Mr. Chairman, if that's okay with you, I can swear in the witnesses and get this thing going.
Please do, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Longo, good evening and welcome to the Belmar Zoning Board. If you could just both state your name, please.
Cynthia Longo.
Anthony Longo.
Okay, and why don't we, and you're the homeowners, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Joe, why don't you state your name and business address?
Joseph Kashuba, KBA Engineering Services, Manasquan, New Jersey.
And you're testifying tonight in your capacity as?
Professional engineer, professional planner.
Okay, and do we have Brian? Yep, hi Brian. If you could just state your name and give your business address and do me a big favor and spell your last name.
Brian Brzezinskis, Berzinskis, architect and owner of Grasso Design Group in Manasquan, New Jersey.
All right, if you could all raise your right hands, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do. I do.
All right, so we'll let the record reflect that all four witnesses have been sworn. And then just get some basic factual information. Mr. or Mrs. Longo, we're talking about the property at 1501 B Street, correct?
Correct. Correct.
And are you all the owners of the property?
Yes.
And how long have you owned it, roughly?
Since June 2020.
June of 2020. And is there a single family home at the site right now?
Yes.
Okay, and do you live there right now?
No, it's not truly habitable, so especially for the winter. So we're staying at family. They've been gracious enough to let us stay here during this.
So it's vacant right now?
Yes.
Okay, and then before I forget, Joe, if I could just ask you one quick thing. This application requires a height variance. As I understand it, it's 38 feet is proposed and 35 feet is allowed. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're less than 10%. It would be considered a bulk variance.
So, Mr. Chairman, the reason that becomes significant is height is one of those weird or unusual variances where, depending on the nature or extent of it, it could be a C variance or a D variance. And what Mr. Joe Kosuba just said is that this deviation is less than a 10-foot or 10% deviation. So therefore, it's a C variance. So that's just important to know. So, all right. So then, Mr. and Mrs. Longo, why don't you just sort of tell the board about what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, and then we can rely on your professionals as needed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time. We bought this property last June as our forever home. To be. We lived in Wall for about 20 years with our boys, raising our children, and always wanted to move to Belmar, where I grew up as a young boy, not living there full time, but as my grandparents lived on 8th Avenue for about 25 years. So I grew up there every summer and knew we wanted to get back here at some point. I don't want to bore you with too much of that, but I wanted to let you know it means a lot getting back in this town. We're looking to build our forever home for us and our boys and hopefully grandchildren someday. And bear with me, I'm a little nervous. This is the first time doing this.
And not a Zoom.
It's emotional because, you know, it's not just a second home for us. It's means a lot more than that.
It will be our primary home.
Be our primary home, be our only home. We're looking to beautify that corner there. It's quite an eyesore, I guess, is probably being very kind, if I call it that. It's where we want to be. It's where we want to grow old. And it's the main reason we were asking for the 2 variances is the property, when we bought it, had a basement, has a basement right now. And that was a big reason for us getting it for storage reasons, more than anything. And once we started going through the process, after we purchased it with Brian and with Joe and with Gordon Construction, there was problems with the basement with water levels. We could tell that there was issues.
We were told it was dry, first of all,
Right,
just so
yeah.
you do
Yeah,
know that.
by the past homeowners.
Never
But
believe them.
Found out that that wasn't the case, but there's nothing we can do about that. So after the soil tests, you know, the boring test to get the seasonal water table, the water level there is very high. It's only 44 inches deep. I believe Joe or Brian could probably speak of that a little more than I can, but I believe it's only 44 inches down, which is
shocking,
very shallow, which is the reason we can't use the basement. That has to be scrapped. New foundation has to be built higher, with proper reason, of course. We don't want to take a risk of water issues, but that is going to take a okay sized basement and now turn it into a crawl space. So that's the reason why we're looking for the height variance, to get a little height for that basement so we can have our storage and have at least easier access to the mechanicals. The second variance, as Joe will probably talk a lot more about it, we're looking to widen the driveway a little bit to get the 3rd parking space in there, one for the garage. It's only a 1-car garage, and the other 2 spots for 3 vehicles, which I believe is, I think it's an ordinance to have 3 for a 4 or 5 bedroom property.
Right, we need 3, and our property only goes back 60 feet. So with the 5-foot setback and then the garage, it doesn't give enough room to get 2 more spots. We wouldn't have 40 feet. So those 2 cars would have to be next to each other. So we were asking for it to be a double wide at that point, and then an additional 2 feet at the curb cut, because it's we can get into the driveway fine. We were there this summer, but to get out of the driveway is very hard. And if we can widen the curb cut a little bit, we make it a little bit safer getting back out of our driveway to back out into B Street.
B Street's a very narrow street. So it is a little hectic getting in and out of there, during the season, of course, but that's part of living there. We have no problems with that. But we decided to ask you all if there was a way we could make it a little easier to get in and out and allow us to get a little height in our basement, just so we can be functional.
We're not doing for our.
It's not going to be a finished basement ever.
And we're not looking for ocean views because it's not going to get us anything to see view wise. It's literally just for the basement.
It's for a basement. Yeah, the height is not going to make a difference aesthetically or any views, like my wife said. So it's simply to get us a little storage. With the 1-car garage, there's not going to be much storage, if any, especially if there's a car in there all the time because of the parking.
And we'll have 4 cars as it is.
4 cars with two boys who are in college right now. So that's why we're here. I own a local business, and Mr. Bianchi has a stained glass lamp in the background there. I own a stained glass business in Wall Township on Route 34. So I've been eyeing that since I got on tonight.
That's his parents in the background. That's not ours.
It's a beautiful piece, and I'm not trying to butter you up, but it's a beautiful piece. It's been my life for 37 years working, and 52 years of my life, stained glass has been everything to me. So when I see beautiful pieces of art like that, I usually have to comment. So that's what we're here.
All right, who's going to take the lead on the rest of the presentation here?
I certainly can. Joe Kashuba, KBA Engineering Services. I don't know if I need to provide my qualifications again, Kennedy. Sure.
Would you, for the record, please?
Certainly. Joseph Kashuba, professional engineer, professional planner in the state of New Jersey, master's and bachelor's degree from Lone University in civil and structural engineering, 16 years experience in the field. Have testified before numerous boards, including this one about 10 minutes ago.
Thank you, Mr. Kashuba. Welcome back.
Thank you. So the property in question, as they indicated, the applicants, is on the corner of 15th and B Street. It's a conforming lot in area and width. It has a very small existing one-story dwelling which faces towards B Street. Right now, it does have a driveway with a fence gate. The driveway itself is actually non-conforming, so technically, by Belmar standards today, it does not have any parking on the property. The applicant's looking to raise the existing structure and construct a new two-story dwelling. The dwelling will comply with the average setbacks on both streets. In fact, it'll exceed them. On B Street, the average is 12.15 feet. We're proposing a front yard setback of 15 feet. And on 15th Street, we're matching the average. 15.3 feet is the average, and the proposed front yard setback there would be 15.3. There will be porches that extend forward of that. Those are also fully compliant. The only variances being sought here, as the applicant indicated, are really height and parking. So this is a unique location in that the seasonal high water table is rather high. Seasonal high water table is at elevation 10.14. For reference, it's about a foot below the curb at the corner of the property. Rather high. The house does have a basement today, as the applicants indicated. It was their understanding that it was a dry basement. If you were to turn the sump pumps off, but you would learn very quickly that is incorrect. As a result, in order to comply with providing a basement above seasonal high, we did have to get kind of unique here with the design. So what we've done is place the basement 1 foot above seasonal high, which puts the finished floor elevation at about 20.14. Now your ordinance is very specific when it comes to building height. It indicates building height shall mean the vertical dimension measured to the highest point of a building from the original lot grade or any revised lot grade shown on a site plan, subdivision, or plot plan approved by the appropriate agency. And then it has this last line that states such revised lot grade shall not include mounding, terracing, or other devices designed to allow increased building height. So in an abundance of caution, we measured our building height from the existing grade on the property, which is about elevation 13.2. But our grading and our design anticipates we're going to elevate the grade around the house some, mainly to get rid of the unsightly foundation. We don't, the applicant, and I'm sure the town on the corner, prominent corner, doesn't want to see a whole lot of foundation exposed. So their intention is to, put in the expense to raise the grade around the perimeter of the home up to elevation 15.5. But your ordinance says we can't utilize that raised grade to benefit height. So we are requesting 38 feet. That is from the existing grade. In reality, if we were to measure from the average grade, once this is constructed, the height is actually 35.7 feet, where 35 is what's permitted. So we're not substantially high, and it won't appear substantially high once completed. But by letter of the law, the ordinance would state that we're required to measure that from the existing grade. The other variances are really parking related. First off, providing 3 parking stalls. On our plan, and I can share my screen here and bring up, I believe Mr. Kennedy would indicate the plot plan was A4, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me see. Plot plan was A4, yes.
Okay, so looking at exhibit A4, you see in front of you the home, 2-story dwelling, 1-car detached garage to the south. And B Street is up and down on page to the right east of the property. We do require a variance from providing 3 parking spaces. It's a 4-bedroom home requiring 3 parking spaces. We show the 3 stalls, but I believe these 2 stalls are technically non-compliant because they're just ever so slightly forward of the front yard setback of the home. But as I indicated, we've intentionally set this house back further to give more room to the corner, more visibility around the corner. The average there is actually 12.15. We could technically move the house closer to B Street, be fully conforming, and make those parking stalls conforming. We feel it's better planning not to keep the house back a little bit, give it a little more space and air at the street. But by virtue of that, we do have a technicality that we do require a variance because these aren't technically stalls per the Belmar ordinance. And we're also asking for a little bit more width on that driveway. So 10 feet is permitted, 12 feet is what we're proposing. Because we have side-by-side parking here, the 12 feet just makes that maneuver a little bit better, that the cars have to come in and turn a little bit. Obviously, the primary concern, at least in my eyes, for any curb cut width is obviously the impact to on-street parking. On-street parking is gold in Belmar. We did measure the setback. Specifically, it's being expanded to the south. So I did measure right now the parallel parking, the available parallel parking south of the site is about 72 feet, striping to striping. That allows for 3 parking stalls. If we reduce that by the 2 feet that we're requesting and make it 70 feet, that's still 3 parking stalls. So we're not eliminating any additional on-street parking as a result. It just provides for better circulation, easier back out, and more safety as they're backing out to be able to maneuver a little bit more straight as they're backing out to be able to see vehicles that are oncoming. That's all the relief being requested. The home itself doesn't require any variances. Where there's no building coverage, pervious coverage, setbacks, any of that. It's purely the height because of the water table and trying to make the parking situation a little bit better. So based upon that, in my professional opinion, the variances can be granted under both the C1 and C2 criteria. C1 being this is a corner lot with a corner lot orientation. A typical interior lot is going to be very long and allow for a driveway to go next to the home and have plenty of room for the parking. On these corner lots where you have access off the long side, you have very little depth. The applicant hit the nail right on the head right in the beginning of the application. They only have 60 feet. When you have a detached garage 5 feet off of that and a 20-foot garage, it doesn't leave you a whole lot of room to make that parking work. So that's an existing condition of this property, unique to the property. The wider throat is preferable to allow proper movements. And the water table is also an extraordinary condition here. Under the C2, the flexible C, where the purposes of zoning are promoted, this application promotes the general welfare and promotes the desirable visual environment. This home is certainly more in character with the neighborhood and promotes a desirable visual environment. I'm glad the applicant said it before I had to. The house is bleak, I would say. So it's not a looker. So it definitely is in need of some improvement. And this home will certainly be more in character with the neighborhood. And the parking relief, it expands the ability for parking. As I said, currently there is a very small driveway that's non-compliant in a front yard. So this does expand off-street parking and provides a safer parking environment. There's no detrimental impact on the public good. It's not uncommon to exceed the building height when there's conditions that warrant it. This water table does create that situation. And as I indicated, via the technical nature of the ordinance, we're requesting a 38-foot height. But in reality, from the average grade, once this is constructed to the peak, it'll only be 35.7 feet. There'll also be no detrimental impact to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. So based upon that, I believe the benefits of the variances outweigh any detriments, and the board can grant the application as being requested. That would conclude my testimony. I would leave it to the applicants if they want Mr. Brzezinskis to also testify.
Let's see you, Mr. and Mrs. Longo. Did you want your architect to testify?
If there's anything he needs to say.
If he feels, yes, there's something to add, absolutely. But he does not have to. That's up to Brian.
I think that Joe covered it very well. And I think that, just to speak a little bit about the actual structure itself, we did have the water table as the driving concern for creating the basement to be a usable space. And that in turn kind of pushed the entire structure up a little bit higher out of the ground. And we did everything in our power with the with the design of it to stay within the rest of the requirements, as well as ultimately even trying to work with the grade the best that we can to make it not look like it's coming out of the ground as much as it is. So the water table was a struggle with the design of the building in order to get functional space from all levels. And ultimately the height was just an ask to try to get them what they need.
Thank you, Mr. Brzezinski. All right, is that the end of the application?
Yes.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll open it up to board questions. We will go to Mr. Grigg first.
Fine. I have one question. I on the site plan around the perimeter of the property, there seems to be a curved line, almost looks like a walkway. I can't see what that is.
I think what you're seeing is the two contours appear to be a walkway because they're parallel to each other, but those are contour elevations.
Oh, it's elevation lines. Okay, I didn't see it as elevation lines. Is this property in a flood zone?
It is not.
It's not. The only other thing I thought about, and I think I'm going to not ask, but I was going to ask about pervious pavers, but because it's only a 44-inch water table, I'm not so sure that pervious pavers like a dry well would be actually appropriate. I kind of like to see them used, and you're not asking for a impervious coverage variance, so I don't think I'm going to ask for that. Other than that, I had nothing for you. I just was curious about that line, and I didn't read it as a height and elevation line. But thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Mr. Malengo, you're up next.
I just have one or two questions. I see you have two or one wraparound open balcony. Is that correct?
You broke up there for a second. I apologize. What was that?
I'm saying it appears to see that you have two balconies. One looks like a wraparound balcony on the second floor.
Yes, there is a wraparound balcony that is starting at the area of the front door and wrapping around to the left side of the home, which is their exterior, like rear yard patio space. And then there's a balcony that also comes off of the other street, 15th Avenue, that has a side entry door as well as a balcony for the 2 bedrooms above.
Okay, so my question is, since they're uncovered balconies, is there any water retention in place? Any drainage control?
We weren't proposing any, and as indicated, because we have that water table issue, it gets very difficult for us to install a drywall. What I would offer is, as indicated, we're not requesting any coverage variances as a result. We're not asking for any impervious coverage or building coverage variances. So a drywall system on this type of lot with that shallow water table gets kind of difficult.
Thank you for your response. No further question.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo. We'll go to Mr. Ross next.
Sure. So I had a couple of questions. I was looking at site plan. Where are the mechanicals going outside?
The back of the house.
Back of the house. Are you
Backyard.
backyard? Okay, so it's within all the setbacks.
Correct.
Yes.
Are you proposing a generator for in
Yes.
case you're there? Okay, I didn't see that either.
That's in the back next to the air conditioning unit.
Yes.
Okay, I just might be missing it. All right.
If you're
It's just a
facing,
rectangle.
if you're on 15, excuse me, if you're on B Street looking at the front of the house, if you go to the back of the house, it's to the back right of the house.
Okay. So it'd be screened from the road essentially. Won't
Yes.
like see the big generator. Okay. Very good.
Correct.
And then I think that answers most of my. Oh, the foundation. You're going to have quite a bit of foundation being exposed. Are you planning on skirting that anyway? Any kind of stone or veneer or?
Yeah.
Yes, on the plans, Brian could probably answer that one.
Yeah, and I think that would be both a part of putting some type of veneer to make it aesthetically pleasing, as I'm sure there'll be some type of landscaping around the perimeter too, to soften the look of the foundation.
Yeah, I saw it on the plans. Sometimes those are on the plans and then they don't get put in. So I think that would probably be a good condition of the application, just to make sure that you don't have a lot of cement showing there or concrete showing. So
we agree.
All right, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, I'm confused about something, and I just want to make sure that I'm either not misreading this or I just want to make sure if there's additional variances required. On the plan, I see for front yard setback, it says 20 required, 15 proposed. And then the next line for the other front, for the B Street porch, 12 required, 8 proposed. Front yard setback, 20 required, 15 proposed. It seems like that's triggering variances. So I don't understand, like, I understand height, driveway, curb cut, but these others, according to this at least, it looks like they trigger variances.
So your ordinance permits us to use a average setback on of the block for the front yard setback when that's appropriate. So for along B Street, we indicate in that table 20 feet and then in parentheses indicate 12.15 foot average. So technically that's the.
I don't know. Mr. Kennedy or Ted, could we get an opinion on that? I know in the past, the average is used for us to make our decision, but the trigger for the variance is the requirement is 20 feet and what's being built is 15. You know, it's immaterial that the average is 12 feet.
The average, like.
Average is not the standard. The standard is the requirement.
No, it's the average. In other words, it's a 20-foot setback, but the average is what you're allowed to take. And the porch is in the front yard setback. That's permitted. So you go from the structure to the property line. He's got 15 feet. That's less than the average, or more than the average that you're allowed. So
okay,
issue.
Okay.
Also, the 12-foot curb cut is permitted.
So no variance is needed for the.
Not for the curb cut, no.
And then Ted, is it, this is Kevin, is it safe to say our ordinance says that the required front yard setback, the required amount is the average setback amount?
Correct.
All right. Okay, got it. Thanks.
All right, so let's just recap that then. So it's actually then 2 variances. So the one that's indicating that the curb cut of proposed of 12 feet is not a variance.
No, that's permitted.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy, if you could please note that. I think we're dropping down from 3 variances to 2 now.
Got it.
Okay, and let's see. I like that you're going to be doing something about the foundation. I think a lot of people don't realize that when they're building the homes, they're only starting the siding at the floor of the home, and this huge concrete foundation is being exposed, and they could just continue that down and make it look a lot better. So I appreciate that you spotted that and you're dealing with it. Your plan didn't show the back stairs. The site plan didn't show it, but then the elevation, I think, shows it. So I just want to make note of the fact that there are back stairs coming off of that deck leading to the backyard, obviously, but it just wasn't on the on the site drawing. Okay, hang on just 1 second, please. And I guess I'm again trying to make this a question. If in fact you're measuring the height correctly, and it is in fact going only 8 inches over the 35-foot limit, it's in the town and the board's best interest for you to only request the 36-foot height, not the 38-foot height. So I would be very strongly concerned about spotting an additional 2 feet just as a margin of error. So can we get some more clarity on where the 38 feet gets measured from, and then make sure you get what you need, but don't ask for more than what you need?
Certainly. So it's really defined by that ordinance. And I would kind of ask for Ted's input on that, it states specifically that the lock grade shall not include mounting, terracing, or other devices. So in this particular case, by us raising the grade to cover that foundation, if the determination was that that's not considered mounting or terracing or other devices to allow increased building height, then technically we would measure from the average grade shown on our plan, which is 15.5. And the building height variance we'd be requesting is 35.7 rather than 35.
Yes, I agree with that. Take it from the average grade on the property. The ordinance is a little confusing when you read that, but it's the average, actually the average grade.
Okay, assuming that the calculations are correct, I would submit that I would like it to show that we're only approving a 36-foot height because it will be problematic. Not only, I know each one stands on its own, but if we start granting height variances that exceed what minimally you need, it's going to be a problem for the board. So would you consider having the height be 36 feet based on Ted confirming that the measurement will take place from the average grade outside of the home?
Correct, at completion, yes. We would have no objection to that amendment of our application.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy, did you capture that as condition of the application?
I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's up next? We have Ms. Strazenovich.
Hi there. I have a question about, on your site plan, you're showing a patio next to the garage. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the driveway as well. And this, I didn't understand, I didn't understand what was said previously. So your plans here indicate pervious pavers. Is that what your intention is to use?
Yes, we showed that we're actually substantially under the impervious requirement. So by ordinance, we're not required to use those, but the allowable is 55%. Using pervious pavers, we've gotten that impervious down to 47%. If the applicant chose not to use those, it would increase it. I believe it'd still be compliant, but it was their intention to try and utilize those if they could. So to reduce the impervious coverage and the runoff. So
right. So along those lines, I see it looks like there are still several trees on the lot. Are you planning? What's the plan with all those trees that are existing?
The trees are not healthy at all. It's lost most of its upper branches, so that tree will be taken down. And then we'll add our landscaping after.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Yeah, that tree will actually be where our garage is. The tree that's presently there.
That's correct. Yeah, there's one large tree basically right at the back edge of the proposed detached garage.
That's
right. And then there's other smaller ones in the front.
There are
on the
bushes
front toward the corner.
There are some ornamental trees. Yeah.
Yes.
which again, we're not taking care of, and they're not healthy at all. But
there's two bushes that are between the sidewalk and the road that are overgrown and encroaching on the sidewalk, so they will be removed. I don't even know if they're allowed.
Yeah, there's some junipers for some reason between the curb and the sidewalk. It's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking on Google Maps online and now I lost it, but it just looked like there were, I guess, those ornamental trees and other trees as well. So you're going to remove all of that?
And replace it with some landscape. We will be doing landscaping once we have the plans set and the ground settles. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzinovich. Ms. Dietz, you're up next.
So I'm not sure if this matters, but I was just interested. One of the reasons you were asking for the variance initially for the height was because of the crawl space. And I was just curious in terms of what that is. What is the how many, what's the height of that, I guess, that you're looking to get?
The height of the basement, you're saying?
Yeah, with the crawl space area, there won't be a basement. It's going to be a crawl space, correct?
Well, no, the intention here, why it's elevated, is to provide a basement.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. Okay, and what would be the height then of the basement?
Based upon the elevations, it would be about an 8-foot basement.
Okay, I thought that they were saying that to get more space for it, but it was going to be a crawl space. So it is going to be a basement.
Correct.
Okay. And are there, and I'm new to this, so forgive me, but are there rules regarding building new construction with a basement?
That's probably a good question for the architect. There's rules about everything, but nothing out of the ordinary, I don't believe.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any regulation that dictates whether they can or can't do a basement. The height of the basement at 8 feet is typical of what we see in most basements, because you do realize there's structure and mechanical systems down there that do take away space. So it wasn't like they were asking for overly too much, but it's going to meet the codes as far as the building codes are required to do.
Okay, and also, while you said it's going to remain an unfinished basement, if that becomes an area that would then be able, with 8-foot ceilings, that would be able to become a finished area at some point.
There is no code that would restrict whether they can or can't finish it. It is just their intention that they're going to be using it for storage space.
Okay.
And I also want to make clear that 8 feet is the highest the basement is. Assuming there's drop girders down there, there will be areas that come lower. So if you're in a basement, there'll be dropped areas and ductwork that'll come down to 7 feet or so.
Right.
Yeah, the floor,
Okay.
I believe there's at least 12 inches a foot just for the flooring above it. So
Right.
you're automatically at 7, and then the mechanical, it's not going to be.
Okay. Okay. And then, and the variance for the driveway, you're asking for that extra 2 feet in width, correct? To
Which,
make that from
Mr.
10 to
Bianchi's
12.
identified that we're not required to, that does not require a variance. So that was our mistake.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dietz. My only question is on the basement. Will the basement have a sump?
Sure it will. It'll probably have to.
Yes.
And where does the water get pumped to?
Well, we have to pump it out, and obviously if we're not going to have the ability to pump it into a dry well per se, it's likely going to come out of some pop-up.
Have it pop up. I'm trying to avoid seeing that drain onto the sidewalk and create an icing condition in the winter. Can you pop it through the curb and put it into the street if that's the case with a pop out?
I would have no problem doing that.
Yeah, if the town prefers that and permits it, certainly.
Mr. Bianchi, is there any problem with doing that?
No, I run into this a lot. I let them pipe it out to the curb because there's no place to put it. If you let it run out on the sidewalk, it's going to freeze in the winter. If it's out in the street, it's not as bad. Unless there's a storm drainage system in the road that you can pump that to, and not too many places in town have that.
There is actually an inlet right in front of the site at the corner. So we would seek to connect to that, or there is a full 6-inch curb on the northwesterly corner of the property. So one of those two, we could certainly pump it to.
I'm sorry, connected to the existing inlet or what?
Or the northwesterly curb line.
Thank you.
There's a sewer on B Street. There's no sewer. I mean, there's a sewer on 15th at the corner, but there's no sewer on B Street. So my intent was, and eventually ask you guys also to put it towards 15th, knowing that the runoff would be better there than onto B Street.
Go ahead, Ted.
Maybe somebody can tell me, maybe Joe can tell me, the cubic content of the basement is more than half of that out of the ground?
No, by the grades proposed, we have 4 foot 8 inches below ground and 4 foot, about 4 foot above.
Okay. If you read the basement definition, if the cubic content is more out of the ground than in the ground, it's a story.
Yeah, we understand that. And
that becomes an issue. Just make sure you haven't got more than half of that out of the ground.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that you had answered my questions. I think I hit everybody on the board. So unless there's anything else to go for, go ahead, Mr. Zenovich.
Sorry, I just want a little more clarification about that, what we were just talking about, the runoff going into the street. I have neighbors, and even though it goes into the street, due to the angle, it frequently backs up and causes a lot of icing all winter long. So I didn't understand what Ted was explaining. So Ted, maybe could you explain to me, or maybe I don't know if the architect or the engineer would explain it, but how what you're proposing, is there a way for it to go more directly into the sewer rather than into the street, and to avoid the street at all and have it go directly into the sewer?
Yes, we can certainly do that. Some towns prefer that we don't for their own purposes. But if Belmar prefers it, we can certainly connect that to the inlet that's in front of the property on 15.
That would be up to the borough engineer. You'd have to talk to him about that.
So what we could say for purposes of this evening is we would connect it to the inlet with approval from the borough engineer. If that was not feasible, we would discharge it through the curb line, which is about 40 feet away from that inlet. So it would pipe into the curb line and flow down the curb line about 40 feet into the inlet.
That's the curb line along 15th or B Street?
15th.
15th, right.
Okay, thank you for the additional conversation about it.
No problem.
Thanks, everybody. With that, why don't we open it up to the public? Ms. Claudio, will you please run the public portion?
All right, it looks like we have a few. Please state your name and address before you speak. Okay. Go ahead, Stephanie. Stephanie, are you there? No. Okay. We will go to someone else, and if she works it out, we can bring her back. Okay, we have John.
Hi, good evening, all.
Hi, if you could just state your name for the record, please, and address.
Yeah, sure. My name is John Yannuzzi, Y-A-N-N-U-Z-Z-I. Address is 229 16th Avenue. And actually, I'm about, I would say, 150 feet away from this property.
Okay, and let me just swear you in real briefly. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So yeah, I just wanted to call in, take a minute, and just let you know that I'm 100% for this project. As was stated before, the three corners of that particular intersection, they really did a nice job with the other three houses, and this one kind of sticks out, not in a good way. So I'd like to see this project voted on and approved and move forward. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Yannuzzi.
Thank you.
Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue.
All right, good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
So I'm a little confused why, if the water table is high, you're going for a full height 8-foot basement, when many people would opt for a crawl space. That's, 6.5 feet. You wouldn't have to go for a height variance and still have plenty of access to your mechanicals. And so can anybody give me some information on what the other four corners heights are that are within that view of your property? Because I feel that giving a variance for height for digging a deeper basement may be a bad precedent to set. Can anybody comment?
Joe and Brian, before you answer technically, we're looking for a little height to that basement. I'm going to need it. I unfortunately have an autoimmune disease that affects my joints and is getting worse, which is why I need that space, because a crawl space or me having to bend in a few years, I don't know where I'm going to be physically. I'm on 2 very tough medications. I'm hoping it's going to stop the progress or at least slow it down so I get much longer use of my legs and my other joints. I'm going to be going for surgery soon on one of them, and I'm relatively young age of 52 with this disease. So me having a little height to be able to get down there and not have to bend with steps, with proper height steps, not small low treads, steps.
Crawling through a window. We see that where.
I know where I'm going to be. Unfortunately, it's something I'm going to have to deal with. I'm not looking for sympathy for it. I'm just trying to give you a reason why we need a little height down there, and I need some storage down there, because having storage anywhere else is going to be tough for me at some point.
I'd like to comment that variances go with the property, not with the people. And that's one of the things I think the board has to keep in mind when they're looking at this.
That's fine.
I mean, as long, if somebody could justify the other buildings being as tall, but if the neighborhood all have 35 feet buildings, I think it's problematic to increase the height.
We are hoping to have that outdoor, the Bilco doors, to be able to have access to walk down there, to have any repairs. And if a storm comes, that we could put the table and the bikes and the things down there through that outdoor method. I don't know if Joe, if you know the heights of the houses next to us. I know the one on the corner.
Yeah, the other
What it's at now.
The other
it's-
newer
it's
homes across the street.
High.
Unfortunately, I don't. We don't have surveyed elevation information for those. I do know visually their average grade is higher than your property, so they would be permitted to be slightly higher. If I had to estimate, it's probably about a foot higher, if not more. And as amended, our application's at 36 feet. So yeah, I don't have any surveyed information, but I would estimate that if that house was built to the maximum height, that your height would be very similar once complete. But I don't have any particular survey information to verify.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Charkis.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Steve Garrison and my wife Melanie, 222 15th Avenue.
All right,
How's
good
everybody
evening.
doing?
I'll just swear you in for the record. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. We came with a few different questions tonight, and one was really regarding the structure height. But at this point, after hearing numerous testimony about the height being, I guess, below 36 feet, we're satisfied with that. And I don't think we have any other questions, but we do want to welcome you to the neighborhood. And we appreciate seeing the upgrade to the corner. So we're pretty close, so we can see you. That's not creepy. But yeah, we're 2 houses back from the corner. So you know, we've looked at that house for quite some time, and we've been hoping for someone to buy it and fix it up. So great. Thank you.
And we're
Thank you. Thank you.
We're in support of their variance. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Garrison.
You're welcome. Take care, everybody. Thanks for having the meeting.
Okay, that was the last one.
Excellent. With that, we'll close the public portion and go back out to board comment and starting with Mr. Grigg.
After having looked at everything and what you're doing, it looks like a worthy project, and I'll be voting for this project.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Next up is Mr. Malengo.
Yes, I think they put a lot of thought into the design of this house and the functionality of coming in and out of the driveway. I would be in favor of this application, and although there are some questions on the height of the house, we can see that you're raising the grade, going to do something with the foundation level, and I think that's a good position to work out the difference in the height.
Thank you.
So I would be in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo. Mr. Ross.
Yes, first I want to compliment Mr. Kashuba. I thought you did a real nice job walking us through the application. I also like the drawings by Brian. I think it's unusual that we get a corner lot that doesn't have setback issues, and I think that the applicant wasn't very greedy in the fact that they're going up an extra foot, but there's not a building coverage issue as a result. So I think with regards to the public comment on setting a precedent, I would have had a bigger issue if we were expanding in multiple areas on the variances. So I think it's minimal, and I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Mr. Fitzgerald.
I just wanted to clarify one of the comments from the public. There's no prohibition on permitting basements to be built as long as they're built within code and within the restrictions that are outlined, one of which was outlined by Ted. So I'm proceeding with the assumption that split, that 50% split that Ted spoke about, that you're speaking to that definitively tonight, that it isn't exceeding that, therefore not causing it to be defined as a story, right? And I think that's important that not get lost. So assuming that that's the case, we could permit the basement and appreciate the 36 feet change, because it really becomes a de minimis approval now, rather than shooting for a 38-foot height. So I think that was extremely important, and it looks like the home that you're the home you're going to build is going to be a beautiful addition to that corner, especially when you look at the stark structure that's there right now. So I am in favor of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Zinovich.
And I just would like to echo what Chuck and Mark just talked about. All of the great, I thought the plans look great, and I agree, especially with Chuck's comment that especially the design seems well suited to the size of the property. And even though it's going to be a large house, I think you're on a good size lot, and I think it'll really look terrific. And I am definitely inclined to approve it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dietz.
Yeah, I also in agreement with everybody else. I think that the design and the thought that went in to the design really takes into account the corner lot and really the use that you have for the house, and certainly an upgrade to the corner and to Belmar. So welcome, and we hope everything goes smoothly, and I would be in favor of the application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dietz. And I too am in favor of the application for all the reasons that have already been discussed. With that, Mr. Kennedy, will you summarize, please?
Sure. So if the application is going to be approved, some of the conditions that you've talked about, or which we always sort of put in, is obviously compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations that the development team made throughout this process tonight, compliance with all the prevailing building and construction code requirements, obtaining any and all necessary demolition permits, compliance with any applicable FEMA regulations, and I guess stormwater management details to be worked out with the borough engineer's office. Now, Mr. Chairman, I wrote down here at the beginning something about not a finished basement. Is that to be a condition or not a condition?
Not a condition.
Not a condition. And then hey, and can I just ask Joe real quick questions for that I'll need for the variance, just in terms of the location and the orientation of the home now. Is it going to be the same when it's rebuilt?
Yes, the primary positioning of the home is facing towards B Street, but there's also a small porch facing towards 15.
Okay, and then just for the record, do you know number of bedrooms in the house now?
I don't. The applicant can probably indicate.
Oh, for the new house or the old house?
No,
For
in the
house?
existing house, number of bathrooms.
Oh,
I'm sorry, number of bedrooms and number of bathrooms, if you know.
4 and 4.
So right now there's 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms.
Correct.
Okay.
Technically, there could be a 5th, which
For
is
the-
a room we're
Okay.
going to see, but
For the upstairs.
definitely 4.
And then with the
And 4
proposed home, you're gonna have, it's 4 bedrooms, correct?
Yes.
And how many bathrooms?
4.
4.
Was he saying?
Just to clarify, you're saying that existing home has 4
Oh, no,
bathrooms?
the existing home you wanted, yeah, the existing
sorry.
home has
Yes,
1
yes.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay,
It has 2 bedrooms and then a little loft upstairs. That's another bedroom.
Okay.
So I would say 3.
2 to 3 bedrooms, and the new home's gonna have 4 bedrooms and it has 1 bathroom now, and if your approval, it's gonna have 4 bathrooms.
Correct.
Okay, and then Ted, just going back to the conditions, I always don't know if we have to add this. Sometimes when I add it, we get in trouble, and if I don't add it, we get in trouble. Do I need to say anything that they said they're getting rid of the existing foundation? Do I have to just reference that as testimony?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, it's.
Okay, that doesn't matter. Okay, so we'll just take that
We're
out.
not relying on any pre-existing conditions in this case.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, in honor of our good friend, Mr. Capulli, who's not here, do we want to ask about, are utilities going to be underground, or is there a good faith effort? Do we want to ask that, or we don't need to ask that here?
Yeah, we typically, we ask the applicant to make a good faith effort to put the utilities underground. Have you thought about that?
No, I actually didn't know if we were allowed.
No.
Everything's so above ground right now.
The concern here is there's no utility poles anywhere near the property. I think the applicant can make an effort to, but I don't believe JCP&L will be able to service them underground in this case.
Okay. In the past, the condition has generally been attempt in good faith to put your utilities underground if it's economically feasible and if the utility companies allow, and you report back to the board secretary. So it sounds like you'd be willing to accept that as a condition.
I believe they would, yeah.
Okay. And then mechanicals and generator in a zoning compliant location. I think Mr. Ross, you brought up the point that we're going to revise the plan so as to confirm that there's not going to be this exposed foundation. It'll be softened to some degree with either landscaping or some type of covering to just so that we're not visible to viewing just cement and foundation. We're going to clarify, Mr. Fitzgerald, that the 12-foot curb cut is permitted. That is not a variance. And we're going to say that the height variance is clarified so that we're giving the variance that is requested and approved is a 36 foot height measured from the average grade. Is that right, Ted?
The average proposed grade.
Average proposed grade. And I guess as an aside, not in relation to this, but while I'm talking about it, I think Ted at one point said our ordinance is a little confusing. So maybe April, take a note, and when we have our annual review, maybe we can, just talk about that later, Mr. Chairman, and say if we need to get clarification on that later on with the Borough Council. And in terms of we're going to, I think the testimony was with some of those trees being removed, we're going to have additional landscaping placed at the site. And all right, so this will come out much cleaner in the resolution than I'm going to say it now, but there'll be some pumps in the basement, and it's either going to be connected to the existing inlet if the borough engineer so approves, and if not, it's going to be discharged to the curb line along 15th Street. And April, I hope you wrote that down because I will never be able to read my writing to see what I just said there. And then we had compliance with this the borough's story ordinance. We are not granting any variance relief for a story, so they just have to make their plans comply with our ordinance to make sure that the basement does not count as a story. And okay, I think that was it, Mr. Chairman.
Well done, Mr. Kennedy, and thank you for capturing the underground utilities as well. All right, with that, can I have a motion to approve the application as summarized by Mr. Kennedy?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
Second.
Second, thank you, Mr. Malengo.
Okay, Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
Mr. Lisco,
Yes.
Mr. Zenovich,
Yes.
Mr. Malengo,
Yes.
Ms. Dietz,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
and Mr. Fitzgerald.
You're on mute, Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
I heard it.
Congratulations, your application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
April, thank you for your help. We were two novices asking questions that were probably, she probably found very odd, but she kind of guided us through and helped us. And
With the
I
land
just wanted
use
to thank
forms.
her and
Thank you all for your
welcome.
time.
and Mr. Zenovich, thank you for your service down there.
Mhm.
Thank you, everyone. And April, God bless you.
Thank you. All right, by a show of hands, does anybody need a break or do you want to roll right into the next application?
Roll.
I see
5
one
minutes?
asking for a break. So
Okay.
can we take a, oh, is that April?
Yeah, I said take 5 minutes.
Yeah, you want to meet back? Let's make it 6. I got 8:24. Let's make it start up at 8:30.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Brian.
Night. Okay, we're back on the record. Take a quick roll call. Mr. Gregg,
Here.
Mr. Lisco,
Here.
Mr. Zenovich,
Are you talking to me?
yep, here.
I can't hear.
Okay,
I'm gonna turn off and come back.
okay. Ms. Dietz,
Here.
Mr. Malengo,
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Here.
and Mr. Ross.
Here.
All right, we're back up to our third application for Marianne and Raymond Walters at 121 16th Avenue.
Okay,
Good
Mr. Chairman, for the third and final time tonight, we will swear in Ted Bianchi. Ted, you are the zoning officer and construction official. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Okay, and then momentarily, we're going to ask if there's anyone here who has any, in the listening public, who has any questions or comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received. Please raise your hand icon or contact the board secretary at
Clerk@belmar.com.
Okay, and what we'll do is we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. So A1 will be the minor land use zoning permit, and that's dated December 15th, 2020, with an attachment. A2 will be the development application, and that's dated January 8th, 2021. And let's see, A3 is a boundary topographic and utility survey prepared by Insight Engineering, and that is dated August 17th, 2020. And A4, floor plans and elevations prepared by MB Hearn Architecture, and that is dated January 5th, 2021, consisting of 3 sheets. I think that's it. April, has there anyone ask to be heard on the notice?
No.
Okay, so for the record, Mr. Chairman, the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and I found everything we found everything to be in order. So it'd be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. And with that, should I swear in the witnesses?
Please do, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you.
Okay, so Miss Marianne Walters, are you going to be testifying tonight?
Yes,
Okay, if you just state your name and address.
Marianne Walters, 121 16th Avenue, Belmar.
Okay, and I see Mary Hearn on the line.
Yes,
All right, Mary, if you could just state your name and the business address.
Mary Hearn, licensed architect, 1007 Main Street, Belmar.
Okay, if you just both raise your right hands, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
Yes.
I do. Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Walters, just to get some basic preliminary information out of the way, we're talking about the property at 121 16th Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and are you the owner of that property?
Yes.
And how long have you owned it, roughly?
20 years.
20 years. And is there a single family home on the site?
Yes.
And do you live there?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you and or through your architect tell the board what it is you're looking to do and what type of relief you need?
I just want to tell the board that I've been here 20 years, but my roots in Belmar go much further back. My parents both own these homes. My mother's father purchased 123, which is next door to me, in 1932. And my father's parents owned this house in the 40s and 50s. And that's actually how my parents met. And also in town, I have a sister that now owns 123, lives next door to me, and a sister behind me. I have a sister on 10th and a sister on 18th. And a sister-in-law on 15th Avenue. I also have a son that owns a house down East Street. I tell you this because I want you to understand I really want to stay here in Belmar. I have a great support system and people around that can help me when I need it. Now, the reason we are looking to build or to change this house is that my husband had a stroke. Raymond had a stroke in 2009. Which he lost the right side of his muscles on his legs and his arms. And 2.5 years ago, Raymond had to go through radiation treatment and lost more control of his muscles. So his mobility is decreasing. And with the pandemic last year, his mobility has gotten really bad. So then I realized that I really need to make it accessible for Raymond. He has a very difficult time leaving the house now and going to, I need an accessible bathroom. So in the past, I've called my brother-in-laws or I've called the police to help me get him up. And I will say they've been excellent. The police have been very prompt and very professional. And I will say that from friends, I've heard that it doesn't happen in all towns. But here in Belmar, the police have been very supportive of helping me when I need it. So when I realized that we really need to have a wheelchair accessible home, I called Mary Hearn, who did a beautiful job for the house of my sister who lives behind me. And she has designed a home that would be accessible to Raymond in all porches, in all places, and has accessible porches. Because in the summer, Raymond likes to sit on the porch and talk to the passerbys. He has quite a few regular friends that stop by and talk to him. But so I would like to turn it over to Mary Hearn now so she could explain to you the technical part of the drawings.
Thank you, Ms. Walters. Go ahead, Ms. Hearn.
Good evening. I'm here for the first time this year. So if you'd like, I'd be happy to state my credentials. And I've licensed in the states of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Florida. I've been licensed in New Jersey since 1992. I've run my own company for the last 21 years, 10 years in Wall, and now 11 years in Belmar. And I hold a Bachelor of Architecture degree from Virginia Tech. And I've testified before most of you several times, and welcome new members.
Thanks, Ms. Hearn. We'll certainly accept those credentials. Welcome back.
Thank you. So I got a call from Marianne and Mary, her daughter, and met with Raymond and Marianne and Mary. And we walked through their home and talked about trying to save it. And every little piece of the existing house, by the time we were not far into our conversation, it seemed needed to be changed. The existing house is very small. If you look at my cover sheet, the existing gross livable area of their home is 965 square feet on 2 floors. And the stairs are extremely narrow, extremely steep, to the point where a chair lift that rides on a straight stair doesn't work, doesn't fit. The bathrooms are extremely small per the age of the home. The rooms are small. When we try to work a plan for someone in a wheelchair, we not only want to make sure that doors are wide enough and bathrooms are big enough, but we want to make sure that there's room just to get from room to room around furniture, that the rooms are big enough that standard bed sizes and furniture sizes can happen and still leave the path that's required. We tend to fill our homes today with furniture and leave pretty small paths. I find myself doing it when I draw floor plans and I put furniture into scale. Oh, if there's 18 inches, you can walk through there, not a problem. But when we're designing for a wheelchair, we need definite paths to work. And the hope is that Raymond can get to the majority of the house. There are some bedrooms planned, and I'll get to particulars, that wouldn't be necessary. So we have an extremely small lot, which I'm going to get to. And the goal was to keep the house as tight as possible for footprint and trigger as few new variances as possible, but offer a wide enough path and accessibility, not only for use of the house, but getting in and out of the house, so that the family isn't struggling with having Raymond have his freedom as much as possible. So there are no parking spaces on the site right now. The site is 27 feet wide by 70 feet deep. The lot is 1,890 square feet. It's in the R40 zone. So it's in a zone where, the hope is we have 4,000 square feet. We have less than half that on this site. It's pre-existing, everything around it is built, and their family literally lives at their property lines. They're surrounded by family and support system. So the hope was, if we knock it down, can we get enough house to work for them to make it worth their while, or would they have to move? Because changing everything about the house just wasn't feasible. You'd put as much money into it as you would a new home. So we're on that tack. We're trying to provide them a new home, and having a place to park one vehicle for Raymond would be a godsend, and then have a path to an elevator that opens at grade, so that we're not bumping a wheelchair up steps to get in and to get out, God forbid in a fire, but even everyday use. So it's not just the house, it's the whole site that we're trying to make as accessible as possible by providing one parking space. And the parking space is actual, not technical. It doesn't meet your definitions, but it would work in terms of performance. And then a path to an elevator The house, as narrow as we could get it to offer the amenities that we want, and as shallow as possible on a 70-foot deep lot, just to keep building coverage, impervious coverage as tight as possible. We're here for an awful lot of variances tonight. I'm going to walk through them. But the real mindset was, how can we work within that size lot and offer a viable home? And what we're proposing tonight, if we're approved, would be a 1,600 square foot house on 2.5 stories. So again, what exists today is 965 square feet. So we would be adding about 700 square feet if approved. So by today's standard, that's still modest. Unfortunately, we are on a very small lot. The existing home, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marianne, has 3 bedrooms and 1.5 baths, correct?
That's correct.
Right. And what we're proposing here is a half bath on the first floor, 2 baths on the second floor, and 3 bedrooms on that second floor, and then 1 bedroom and a bath on the half story. So in the end, if approved, we would be 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. If you'd like, you can follow along in the plans. We can look at the floor plan first, and then I'll come back to the site plan to put in the variance. On my sheet 2 of 3, we're hoping to put in a basement, unfinished, but a place to put the mechanicals, a place to put the elevator machine room. And then the first floor plan, which is next left on my sheet 2 of 3, a covered porch similar in size to what they have now, a family room right in the front door, which would be 16 by 12, 12.5, a dining room, all open floor plan so that the paths are clear and open, and then open to a kitchen in the back. So we're simply family room, dining room, kitchen, all open front to back. And then tucked to one side are the elevator, a stair, jackback stair to get to all levels, a half bath that's just large enough that we know will work for Raymond, and a laundry, and then tucked under the house in the back corner, an outside shower. So the second floor would go over that. A landing, and then down quickly to a very small backyard. And then the next plan to the left of that is the second floor plan. We're hoping to put a covered porch on the front over the first floor, the master bedroom on the front to access that porch, a bath that is just large enough again for Raymond and not overly large. Again, just trying to keep footprint back. We have 2 very small bedrooms planned in the back, each with a closet, and a small hall bath. Again, the elevator and stair take up some room. Then you would come up that elevator and or stair. The last drawing on the left would be the half-story plan, and you would come up to a hallway, not unlike we do often, a common loft room, to an outside balcony at the front, elevator, stair, and then a small bedroom in the back. That bedroom on the upper floor, we hope we don't need it, but if needed, if there's an aid that needs to be in the house, that bedroom is the hope is that bedroom would serve that purpose up on a separate floor, so that they can have their family space on the lower 2 floors and have somebody a little bit separate away. The elevations on the last sheet, because I'm going to come back to the site plan. We have a gambrel roof, trying to tuck a half story that's workable. We meet the height requirement, and we tried to design a house that had character and fit in well with the neighborhood. The look is from the 20s and 30s, not unlike the houses around, and even the newer homes that we do today. But a brand new home, 9-foot first floor, 8-foot second floor, 8-foot right down the middle on that half story. And if I can draw your eye to the upper left drawing of the elevations, the east side elevation, the door on the right would be the elevator door. And then there's a door to a landing to the steps so that you could bring bicycles and grill or whatever you need to down into the basement without coming through the house from the outside. We didn't have room for any Bilco doors, but there's a way to the basement from the outside directly on that mid landing. So then if you look at the cover sheet, which is the site plan all the way to the left is existing for comparison, and then the one to the right of that is proposed, and they're listed that way. You can see that the existing home is 19.7 feet back. The average is 19.6. So we're proposing the new home to be forward 1/10 of a foot. And then the average porch, we meet the average front setback for both the house and the porch in the new proposed home. We do not meet the side setbacks. I would love to, but we have 27 feet to work with. 5 feet's required there. We're proposing 3.1 and 4.4 feet for the sides. And we're pushed back on the front to offer a parking space and a line with the rest of the homes. And we're left with 9.4 feet at the rear, where 20 feet's required, or 25 feet's required, I'm sorry. So we're seeking quite a few variances. I'm just going to walk through them and get them on the record. I'm trying not to keep you late, but, and then I'll give some reasoning behind if you'll let me. So if you want to follow along with on the chart at the top of my cover sheet, the lot area, 4,000 square feet's required. We're at 1,890. Frontage, 40 feet's required. We have 27. Building coverage existing is 38. We're proposing 47.6, where 30% maximum is allowed. I'll come back to a little testimony on that. Impervious coverage, we're at 54.8 today. If approved, we'll be at 56.2, where 55% maximums allowed. So we're triggering a new variance there. Floor area ratio existing is 48.2. If approved, we'll be at 87%, where 78% maximums allowed. I'm going to give a little testimony to that as well. On-site parking, 0 spaces exist. Technically, we're going to have 0 spaces that meet your ordinance when finished, if approved. But we would love to provide 1 actual parking space that would work. And then 3 spaces will be required if we're granted the variances and the 4th bedroom. Front yard setbacks to the house and the porch comply. Rear yard setback, 20.5 exists to the dwelling. There are other things in the backyard pretty substantial, but to the dwelling, 20.5 exists. 9.4 proposed, where 25 is required. Side setback to the east, existing 4.5, proposed 3.1, 5 foot's required minimum. Side setback to the west, 6.3 exists, 4.4 proposed, 5 foot minimum. And then the totals, 7.5 proposed, where 10 foot minimums required. We comply with the required height. We comply with your definition of a half story. And then there exists a pretty good sized shed and shower that protrudes from the house now. Those would go away. So there are 2 really minor pre-existing nonconformities on those accessory structures that we could eliminate because we're not proposing any new accessory structures.
I'm sorry, there was eliminate the shade and eliminate
the protruding exterior shower.
Thank you.
Yeah. So on the chart, the lot size and the lot area, those are pre-existing nonconformities that we cannot correct. Again, there's no land around us to buy up. Building coverage, the difference in building coverage proposed constitutes 183 square feet. So we'd be going from 38% to 47.6. And if you look at the site plans alongside each other, again, on the left of my cover sheet, you see that we're wider than the existing home and deeper than the existing home, but getting rid of the accessory structures in the backyard. And that difference is 183 square feet. But when your denominator is 1890, you know, that's a almost 9%, 9 and change percent increase. So that's a variance that we would need relief from. And I think the testimony on that is the need for the rooms to be a certain size for accessibility. If you look at the room sizes, and I put them in specifically, none of them are overly large by any stretch. So, and we put the furniture in so you can see the paths. The impervious coverage, we would be going from 54.8, which complies today, to 56.2. It's a difference of 42.6 square feet. And part of what drives that is I got rid of everything that I possibly could. We're proposing semi-pervious coverage wherever possible. And we're hoping to put in a parking space and a walkway from that parking space along the east side to that elevator door. So if we can't get a hard surface wide enough back to that door, our whole accessibility kind of falls apart. So the hope is we can see our way to granting 42 more square feet of impervious coverage in offering the accessibility. Floor area ratio, which is a tougher variance. Again, we're proposing 1,645 square feet of net livable area on 3 levels. Out of that, the stair 3 times counts 180 square feet, and the stair, and the elevator 3 times counts 75 square feet. We are hoping for a half bath that's just slightly larger than normal so that it's absolutely usable, and a master bath that's slightly larger than the minimum, you know, that would be necessary for the same reason. Our doorways all have to be slightly wider, and our paths have to be slightly wider to offer furniture still, you know, for the wheelchair paths. So the size of the home is bigger than that exists, but what exists is not usable at all. So the hope is that we've made this still as small as possible, but absolutely functional in terms of bulk size, coverage, and then the site in terms of impervious coverage. Setbacks kind of speak for themselves. Our hardship is are the dimensions of the lot. We again have 27 feet to work with. So our home is just under 20 feet wide, and the depth of the lot is only 70 feet. So to get, again, a viable home and offer the bedrooms on the second floor that are not large by any stretch, the depth of the house is kind of set to support the family kitchen, dining, and those 3 bedrooms. This just the depth you need to get them to fit. So those are the setbacks. Those are all of the variances: building coverage, impervious coverage, floor area ratio, parking, and then the setbacks. I believe Ted picked up another variance that I didn't have listed, but we did notice for because he picked it up. We're hoping to cover the balcony on the half story, and we are forward of the required front setback. So if that is granted, that will need a variance. I'm not presuming you're granting it, but if you're inclined to grant it, putting a roof over that balcony on the 3rd floor would require its own variance. The floor area ratio, so I haven't heard from you yet, and I understand why I haven't stopped talking, but the floor area ratio, I've been before you before, and tied a little bit with what Kevin said earlier, if you can find it in your heart to grant me some time, I'd love to address that with you on a separate occasion. We've talked about the fact that your chart is a sliding scale, floor area ratio, building coverage, impervious coverage, but especially the floor area ratio. And it gets higher as the lots get smaller. But there are loopholes in it. We've talked about this in other variances. You could have a lot that's 1 foot bigger than the lot in the next category lower and lose 5%. Well, my feeling is at the high end of the chart, FAR, and at the very low end of the chart, we don't address the right percentages. If we're hoping for year-round residency and houses that are a certain size, this one is still super small and modest, we should consider, or we have to come to you and then you consider, in this case, instead of just granting it all the time, a higher FAR on these really, really tiny lots, and maybe slide the scale differently for the bigger lots too, because I'm still very concerned about the bigger lots. We just have so few really minuscule lots and so few big lots that we're always kind of focused on the middle, and the chart works. But at the extremities of the lot sizes, to me, the chart really never has worked. You know that I've put this on the record in the past. I was part of the team when floor area ratio came into existence in Belmar, and I was part of the think tank in putting it together. And I brought up that concern at the time and was told, if it's not broken, we're not fixing it right now. They can go to the board and make a case for higher floor area ratio or the loopholes when needed. And that's why we are before you on that issue, and often before you for FAR. I've brought that up before. So it's a tough one. I know that it restricts bulk, and I know that that's its intent, and I agree with the intent, but I feel that Board of Adjustments are put in place to look at the individual lots on their own merits. And we know this is an uphill, battle here, but I think it's a good plan for the for Marianne and Raymond and their family, and we hope you can grant it. I'm here for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Ms. Hearn. Ms. Walters, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you. With that, we'll open it up to board questions. Why don't we start with Mr. Ross?
Okay, so you mentioned a number of relatives around you. So the 3.1 foot setback to the east, is that your relative that lives next to you, or?
No, it's not, but they're very good family friends. We celebrate weddings and parties and celebrations.
Yeah.
We go on vacation together.
And if I can, their driveway is up against our side, if that helps.
Yeah, I saw that. So you don't have any off-street parking right now, is that right?
No.
That's gotta be pretty tough in the summer, I'm assuming.
I've managed the last 20 years. You make do. And I have relatives on either side that have driveways.
Right. So if approved, then there'd be a curb cut there. What would that do to the on-street? Would it remove a spot, or would it be
It would
negligible?
remove a spot.
Remove a spot, but it would give you on-street parking for being able to then access the elevator there. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then just to clarify, so you're only adding 180. Did I get that right? You're only adding 183 square foot of building coverage.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that number?
183 square foot.
183 square feet of total building footprint.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And then, so I guess the other question, so you're tearing the whole thing down, you're moving the foundation, that driveway piece. So you are above on pervious there. Are you proposing to use any kind of impervious pavers there to help?
All
That is.
impervious,
Okay,
yes.
all right, so that's a condition of the application then that. you
It's
are
how we
one-
get to our number also, Mr.
Okay.
Ross.
All right.
Yep.
Generator, I saw there's a generator there and AC units in the back. Those are within the setback.
Yes, the generator is, I mean, it's not required for an elevator, but when you have an elevator and
Right.
you need to use that elevator, it's not just convenience, is a really good idea.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Exactly. I guess the other question then is just, I mean, it's going to come up. One of the board members will bring it up, so I'll bring it up now. Just keeping the water on site. What are your plans for that?
Yes.
Unless I missed that testimony, I'm sorry.
No, because I'm not an engineer, I didn't testify to it, but I will testify that with a new home, we have to provide site engineering drawings.
Okay.
And stormwater grading and drainage will be planned. And I am fairly certain we're going to need to go underground just to make it work anyway. So I'm happy to commit to that if it's required by you.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, John.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Why don't we go to Mr. Malengo next?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question is for you, Mary. Maybe I misunderstood you before. I see the front porch, I see a second level balcony and a third level balcony.
Correct.
Okay, did you say you want to put a roof over the third level balcony?
Yes, if you look at my third page, do you have my drawings?
I do.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I don't
Yeah,
see
you
it.
caught me. No, we're planning a roof over the second floor balcony, and that requires.
Okay, you did say the third floor balcony in your testimony, right?
Yes, we are
Now,
not
the second-
requesting it on the third floor. Yeah.
Okay. The second floor balcony then would require a variance,
The roof over it.
according to
would.
Ted. Is that on your application? Because I didn't see that on the application.
I believe
is?
it is.
Okay,
And if
Okay.
it isn't, we definitely listed any and all other. I didn't submit the application, so.
okay, very good. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Mr. Malengo. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How you doing, Ms. Hearn, tonight?
Well, and you?
And the Walters, how are you guys doing?
All right.
I just, I like the plans, Mary. You always build a beautiful home. I would tell you guys, it looks like you picked a good architect here. I just would like to hear more about the setbacks because you're going from 4.5 feet on one side to 3.1 feet, and you're going from 6.3 to 4.4. And I would just like to know more about if you could have kept it where it was, I think there'd be zero concerns. But Mary, could you speak to that a little bit?
I can, and if it helps, if you look at our floor plan, especially the second floor, in order to get the bedrooms to fit, I need the house to be slightly wider. And those bedrooms in the back on the second floor are super narrow.
Okay. And so 4.4 is a walk, 4.4 will be the walkway for access to the backyard.
Correct. That's just grass, but that's the opening.
And how about on the other side? Is that going to be too close to a structure? I don't know. I can't see what's next door. Is that where the driveway is?
So if you can look at that site plan on the cover sheet, the proposed where it says 3.1, that's at its closest point.
Yeah.
So the walkway that's hatched that gets you to the elevator door, there's actually more room under the second floor overhang.
Right.
Just so there's room for that door to swing out and actually get in the elevator.
Yeah, I have to say, and we see so many applications like this. This problem was created years ago. You know, when this lot was cut, this is not. I mean, it is a problem we're dealing with in 2021, but probably like sometime in 1900 or 1921, when it was decided to have a lot this narrow, is why we're, faced with these challenges. So I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Grigg.
I don't think I have any real questions, but I do have to say that I've got a gold star for Mary Hearns. I think she's finally hit the greatest number of variances requests on one application that I've ever seen. And she's also then put 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. Mary, I really didn't like when I first looked at this. I understand a lot more about it now. And I don't have any questions for you, but it looks like a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Next up is Ms. Dietz.
Okay, so sorry about that. I'm having computer issues this evening. I have to say the same thing. I mean, I really appreciate, obviously, being walked through this. When you see this on paper and not knowing the story, certainly, it looks at it differently. And again, kudos to be able to really accommodate the needs of the family on a lot this size is just incredible. Can you explain a little bit? I think you were saying when you were presenting earlier, while I think the driveway and that walkway will be with impervious, do you need to have a concrete slab that would lead to the elevator? So you would be able to.
We have, if you look at the site plan, we do have the driveway turns into a walkway, the same pavers.
Right.
Back along that east side to the door. Yes, we need a hard surface,
Okay.
but the pavers will work fine.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And then in terms of, and I don't see that anything was presented with it, but in terms of with the impervious and the coverage of that, there will be some landscaping and everything to accommodate all the needs and handling of the water.
Yes, in fact, we will have a site engineer do the grading and drainage, and most likely we'll be doing stormwater management underground.
Okay, terrific. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Strazenovich.
Is this house in a flood zone?
No.
Okay, that's good. The existing air conditioning looks, well, I can see the placement of the new air conditioning or the proposed and the generator. It's all the way at the back of the lot. So how, do you know the distance? I can see it's it's maybe 3 feet to the, I guess, the property line. And then how far is that from the building that's on the back end of the lot? It looks very close. And
to Marianne's sister? Hang on, I could tell you. Yes, it's a total of 5 feet to the building.
So from the generator to the next building on the next property is 5 feet?
That's planned, yes. There's a possibility we could stack that. I just didn't want to be looking out the kitchen window at them.
Well, they're sitting on the ground though, right? And is a basement?
No, they are sitting on the ground, yes. And so sometimes we'll stack the units outside to get them further away take up less square footage. But if I stack them there, when you look out the kitchen window, you'll be looking right at whatever unit's on top.
And is that 5 feet distance between the generator and that neighboring house? Is that a problem? Is that allowed? I guess I'm asking Ted or Mary.
Well, there's a 3-foot setback in the rear yard.
So we just meet it. We're just meeting the requirement and not seeking a variance for it. The generators do come with their own clearance requirements. There are an awful lot of options today on the market as to which way they exhaust and how close they can be to anything that's combustible.
And is there any device or something to quiet the generator and the air conditioners? I mean, I live myself on a very small lot here, and last summer when I had to listen to everyone's generators, they're very loud, even the ones that just kick on for a short period of time every so often.
generators are actually louder than AC units today. I don't know that there's a way to muffle them. The hope is they're not on often. I mean, they do come on for their cycle just to do their regular maintenance. And usually when they are running, there's a disaster and people don't actually mind hearing them because they have power. But the AC units today, today the AC units are much more quiet. And I don't have a problem flipping them. I also know that Marianne's family lives in that house, and we'd be happy to accommodate, anything we can to them.
Right, but I mean, everything is tied to the property, not just to the owners,
Yes.
because the owners may move and, things pass to other people. So is there, to the west of where the generator and air conditioners are placed, is that on the other side of the property line? Is that another structure?
That's a shed, I believe.
That is.
I believe that's an accessory structure. It's either a shed or a very tiny garage.
Okay. But you don't think that it's living space?
No.
It's not living space.
And Marianne, you can comment. You're on the record. You know that.
It's a small garage
Okay.
for 123.
So, and I'll just comment, I am concerned about the side yards, the 3 feet, 3.1 feet and 4.4 feet. Like I said, my lot is also very small, and I know that you have, your existing lot is very tight there also. But grass may not even grow there. It doesn't really grow on the sides of my house there because it's so shaded. So are you proposing grass there in that, those 2 side yards, or is this going to be like rocks or something? Because I don't know that,
Marianne, you and I did not talk about that. We did talk that it has to be left pervious. Do you have a sense?
There'll be grass. There's grass. It's probably one of the few spots there's grass between the houses. Now, and I expect it to stay between the 2 houses.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't talk about anything else.
Yeah.
But the new structure is going to be much taller the way you're proposing it. So it could block more sunlight from there. If
in the morning it will.
I'm not sure.
In the morning it will block a little more.
Okay. Could you say what the height of the basement is supposed to be? I don't think I could tell from the drawing.
So I have that on my last page. I'll give you. It's about 7 foot 8 inches tall.
And the reason I ask about that is because that seems, this is as others have said, this is a lot to put into one tiny lot.
Yes.
Seems.
Are you concerned about it being finished?
Just the height, because there's so much packed into that size lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if the basement were lower, if it wasn't almost 8 foot tall ceiling, then I guess you could get a little bit in there, but I don't know that that's practical with the elevator mechanicals and and everything else you're talking about in there. Is there an option?
It also offers the family storage.
Right.
That's their only storage.
And I mean, this is a lot of people, 4 bedrooms, 1 parking space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zinovich. This is a tough application. I think what's being proposed is too big for the lot, but I certainly understand the hardship. One of the things I'm most uncomfortable with is the driveway in front of the house that's not a driveway. And now we're creating a spot. Maybe, Marianne, could you tell me what parking is like on the street there? I mean, are there, it looks like a lot of other properties have driveways that extend to the back of their house. Are there, what's it like in the summer? I mean, are there people parking all over?
Well, it's a beach block. They're in the summer on a nice day. There's tough parking. If you're not here by 9 o'clock. Weekends are hard. But in the 20 years, I've never had a really difficult time getting a parking spot. I might be 2 blocks away or over on Snyder, but I've always managed to find one.
You don't leave on the weekend. Did you ever talk to the town about getting a handicap spot designated in front of your house, or is that done?
No, I didn't, but I have talked to them, but I just haven't followed through on it. It is a county road too.
So I guess then my question would be to Ted, is that a county decision or a town decision? Can you even get a handicap spot designated on 16th?
Yeah, that's a county, if anything to do with the sidewalk and the curb, that's all county.
Okay.
Is that the question you had?
It's actually the police department. Oh, sorry. It's actually the police department that would review it and determine if the spot could be placed or not.
Do you know if there's others on 16th Ave, April?
Not off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
If I can, when I met with Marianne and Raymond, the hope was to have a spot on the site because they don't have one now, and getting in and out of the car is not very safe out at the street level. So just keep that in mind. We're just trying to keep everybody as safe as possible. They don't want to give up their front yard for this. They really don't. But we're just trying to make that accessible path as easy as we can.
Yeah, I certainly understand the need.
I think that Marianne will go take that spot out on the street every day. So you're trading one for another.
Yeah. All right, that was my only real question.
Yeah, I get it. It's tough.
Yeah. Did anyone else have any other questions? Ted, did we miss anything? I don't see any. Mary, the one thing we didn't pick up on was utilities. Is there a chance to put them underground?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They will be.
All right. All right. I guess with that, April, can we open it up to the public for questions, comments?
Sure. If anyone would like to comment, please raise your hand and state your name and address. You have Carolyn?
Yes, hi. I'm Carolyn Flint. I live at 123 16th Avenue, right next to Marianne and Ray.
All right, good evening. I'm just going to swear you in if you don't mind. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Sure. I fully support the new house for Marianne and Ray. The current house is extremely difficult for Ray to maneuver. He falls quite often, and I worry about him and the stress it puts on my sister. The new house is necessary to keep Ray safe. It will also allow room for Marianne's children and grandchildren to come so that they can be with their parents and enjoy Belmar the way our family has for close to like 90 years now. Our family has occupied that corner, and I don't want anybody going anywhere since I just moved in next to her. So 100% support, and hope that you guys understand how helpful this will be for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flint.
What? Go ahead. Lynn?
Oh, hi, Len Canarazzi, 107 and a half 16th Avenue.
All right, if you could just spell your last name, please.
Canarazzi, Cannarozzi.
All right, good evening and welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that if you put aside the medical need here, I think that given the size of the lot, it's actually a very good plan. You're going to have a brand new home. You're adding a parking space, which will save one on the street. I think for a lot that size, it's probably the best plan you might come up with. So I'm very much in favor of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Canarosi.
Go ahead, Christina.
Hi, Christina Sinclair. We live next door at 119 16th Avenue.
All right, if you could just, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you're providing, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I just wanted to piggyback on what the other two members of the public said. We're in full support of the application. We agree that the new house on the street, there's been a lot of new development. It will only, continue to improve the street and is a great design, to accommodate what, what needs to get done on the property, but does it in a compact and in a really lovely design. And I think it's an overall improvement to the street and the town. So we support it.
Thank you, Ms. Sinclair.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll try Stephanie. Go ahead, Stephanie. Yes. She may need to do an update because it's saying she's on an older version of Zoom. So,
is there a number she could call in?
Yes. Oh, here we go. Go to Linda.
Strike two for Stephanie.
Go ahead, Linda.
Linda Sharkis, 4th Avenue.
Hello, good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My mother became infirm. We needed to make accommodations in her house, but we didn't have to go for variances because I need to remind you, the variances go with the property. What's going to happen, with these properties, if we keep on infringing on the setbacks? I'm sympathetic to the situation that the Walters are facing, but as a board, I think you have to consider what your mission is and sticking to the plan. And I don't know what the solution is, but if having no emotional input, I think it's time we've often talked about people having to move to different houses. And these setbacks are really narrow. So unless you could justify it with all the other houses in the neighborhood, I'm not sure this plan should be approved. And I'm just sticking by I don't know the Walters. I understand having somebody who's incapacitated, but it is about what our future property in the neighborhoods will look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharkis.
If I can respond, I don't know if I'm out of line.
Please do, Mary.
We've historically granted down to 3-foot setbacks on ultra narrow lots in the past. Again, I agree. Our job is to be as close to the master plan as we possibly can. But in this instance, we still need a viable home. And the home that's there now is not viable, even for someone not in a wheelchair. It just does not meet today's standards in terms of stair width, bath widths. The hardship is the absolute narrowness of the lot in terms of the side setbacks. If the borough has never granted 3-foot side yard setbacks in the past, I would agree we should not set precedent. And I tried to not do it on both sides when I could here. But this is a very narrow lot, and it is a very narrow house still when we're done, if approved.
Well, it's up to the board to work to change our setbacks to be able to move forward without working on these kind of variances, if that's going to become the norm. But thank you. I appreciate what you're saying, Mary.
Thank you, Ms. Sharkus.
And then we have Tricia.
Yes, Tricia Walters, 1503 A Street.
All right, good evening. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you're providing, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Just to comment on what one of the other board members had said, that a lot of these properties were divvied up over 100 years ago, and we can't fix that. We can't do anything about the property size, but I do support this project 100% because there's nothing being asked for that is unnecessary. It is truly for safety and for health. 16th Avenue has quite a big.
Did Tricia just drop off?
Try that again. Tricia, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, got it.
Sorry. I was saying that nothing being asked for is unnecessary. The curb on 16th Avenue is very high and very steep, and that's where a lot of issues occur when trying to open the car door or step over the curb. And I just would like to reiterate that there really is nothing unnecessary being asked for. It is just a matter of health and comfortable living. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walters.
I'm going to try Stephanie one more time. Stephanie, are you there? No. You there? No, she must be having technical difficulties. You can call in if that's easier.
Hey, Mary, in the meantime, real quick, that first floor, it appears to be cantilevered there a little bit, half the facade set back further than what the 3.1 foot is. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that
Yeah,
we
so-
could get that path for the
Yes.
wheelchair. Mhm.
So the majority of the first floor, it appears to be what, back to where the original foundation is almost? Like it's,
So the majority is about 19 feet. The existing house. The existing house is 16 feet wide.
yeah,
So it's 3 feet wider for the majority of what we're proposing.
of the cantilevered portion, or of the skinniest portion there on the first floor?
Well, the absolute skinniest portion is the front,
Right, the front half of it appears to be
and that's
almost,
at 17 foot
almost
4
appears to be,
inches.
yeah, it almost appears to be in line with what you
Right.
got now. I guess that was just an observation I was kind of looking at there. So the expansion appears to be in the back half of the first floor and the second floor.
Correct.
Okay. And it's about the size of a hoagie, a sub, 12 feet or 12 inches, right?
1 foot 4 inches. Yep,
Okay.
at the front.
Just trying to envision it. I
No,
think about
I
at this time of
appreciate it.
night, I'm thinking about food. So 12 inches. Okay. Thank you.
All right, we do have a caller that joined, so I'm not sure if that was the person that wanted to speak. If you're here by phone, you dial *9 and that'll raise your hand if you wanted to speak. Okay.
Speaker, are you there?
You have to unmute. Go ahead.
Hi, these darn computers, I can't get them to work. Anyway, I'm Marianne's sister. I live behind her.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Patricia Zaros. What is it? 1602 A Street.
Okay, good evening and welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
Yes.
What was your last name?
Zaros. Zaros.
Thank you.
Okay, so I support this. Mary Hearn has done a good job on these plans. She did my house about 10 years ago. We've not had any trouble. And my sister needs this. We are not spring chickens anymore. And Ray needs it. He needs to be able to talk to the passerby, so he needs his porch. And I think it improves the area, the new building. And parking is a problem in the summer. And like Tricia had said, that getting him in and out of the car and up over the curb, and it really is for his convenience and my sister to try and get him up those stairs in the house is a problem. And he deserves to have, they deserve to be nicely living there for their convenience. So I support this action.
Thank you, Ms. Arias.
Any questions?
Oh, sorry.
Any questions for me? What happened?
I'll have none and see none.
Pardon?
All right, I guess we'll try Stephanie one last time. Stephanie, are you there?
No, I think Stephanie is Patricia.
Oh, okay.
It's her daughter's name, Stephanie.
Gotcha. All right, then that was it.
All right, with no other questions or comments from the public, we'll close the public portion and open it up to board comment. And we'll start with Mr. Ross.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the application as presented. I think you've done the best you can do with the tight lot, as Mark said, and given the circumstance and the minor infringement on the current setback, I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Mr. Malengo.
Yes, I'd just like to say, as a member of the building community, Mary, that was some challenge there for you with the design and also with the reasons for the design. I think it's a good design. I think it will look nice in the neighborhood. I think although some people may be objective to the driveway as a parking area, I see it as necessary for the function for the family. So I would be in favor of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo. Mr. Fitzgerald.
So you have a 27-foot width to deal with. And if you tried to stick within the setbacks, and within reason, even if we said 5 foot on each side, that would only leave you a 17-foot width house. What's being asked for, the combined, instead of it being that 5 and 5, it's actually 7.5. So it's a 2.5 foot difference here. And compared to what's there, it's not much wider at all. So It is a difficult application, and I just want to make sure that the commenter from the public understands, we've got to work with the application in front of us, and the challenge is the width of this lot. So I'm in favor of it. I think Mary's done a great job designing this house. I understand it's forever and it goes with the lot, but I do think there is some hardship that the board needs to take into account, not only hardship due to the current owner's condition, but hardship relative to the lot size to let a new home go there. Otherwise, it would continue for the existing home to have to stay there, because why would you come forward with a different application? So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Next up is Mr. Grigg.
I've looked at everything, and I really tried to come up with some kind of an idea that would be better than what we've got, and I can't. We have in the past, rarely, but we have in the past, one time that I remember, approved parking in a front yard like this, over near either Oakwood or Pine Tree or something like that. Under exceptional circumstances, we've done that before. I don't see any solution to it other than what we've got here. Like Mark just said, you got a 27-foot wide lot, and the maximum legitimate house would be 17 feet. We're not looking for that much more, and I don't see what else you can do other than abandon the lot and leave it vacant, and that's not reasonable. So I'm in favor of it, and you did a good job, Marianne. Good luck to you people should you be approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Ms. Dietz.
Yes, hi, thank you. I would say, just to reiterate what was said, I do appreciate comments and the understanding that you want to be careful, and it seems like setting precedent, but this seems to be a very unusual lot, and the circumstances are certainly unique. And so I think with the design and keeping it to as much as it could be, to what is existing now, I think it is done very well. And for people who have spent their lives here in Belmar to be able to accommodate their needs, I'm certainly in favor of that.
Thank you, Ms. Dietz. And Ms. Strazenovich.
I do also appreciate all of the effort that's gone into planning this, and I certainly understand the hardship of the size of the lot, and am certainly sympathetic and empathetic with the applicants about the needs, and that the house is not working the way it is, and that you're trying to get yourself into a situation that will really work well for you. I'm really not sure about this application. I do appreciate the width in the front that was just talked about, that about 1.5 feet is rather marginal. And I think that certainly works in favor of approving the application. I think I'm still struggling with the top floor, the half story, and that 4th bedroom. And I mean, I'm even okay with that parking space in the front also, because it certainly, I think that's valuable to enable an off-street parking. And worst case, you can block your own driveway and park at the end of that spot if necessary. So you can gain a lot from getting that driveway space plus the access to the elevator much more safely. But that 4th bedroom and that top half story really seems like a lot based on the size of the lot. So like I said, I'm still a little up in the air about the application.
Thank you, Mr. Zenovich. I'm up next. These small lots are some of the toughest applications we see because they require so many variances. And every time they come in front of me, I feel like we're overbuilding on a lot. But then I hear the application and the fact that this lot size is a hardship. It's, I don't think this, I don't know what better design you could put on a small lot like this than what's being proposed. I don't think it would ever be redeveloped in something that would be much more conforming than than what's being proposed. And I do think that's the best use for the lot at this time. For those reasons, I'm in favor of the application. I think that was everybody. Mr. Kennedy, will you summarize, please?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, if the application is going to be approved, I think some of the conditions that we talked about or otherwise implied would be compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations the development team made tonight. And particularly from some of you newer members of the board, I always sort of say that's my catch-all phrase of, in case I forget to say something now. If it was said during the meeting, it means something. So that's our little catch-all phrase. Compliance with all applicable affordable housing regulations, compliance with building and construction code regulations, stormwater management and grading and drainage details to be worked out and reviewed and approved with the borough engineer, obtaining any necessary demolition permits, good faith request to obligation to attempt to place utilities underground, providing it's economically feasible and the utility companies so allow, and the applicants will have a obligation to report back to the board. Compliance with any applicable, I think, Mary, you said is FEMA regulations do not apply here, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Construction code and building code regulations. Ted, sometimes when we have an outside shower, do we say it has to tie into the municipal system?
No, it doesn't have to, Kevin. They call that station.
Okay, so we'll cross that up. Compliance with the top or the half-story ordinance, we're not granting any relief from that. Confirmation that the shed will be eliminated and the protruding exterior shower will be eliminated. Confirmation that the applicant does need the variance for that covered balcony on the second floor. They did, in fact, notice for that specifically. And then April, again, put on our topic of annual review, floor area review, maybe if we need to discuss it again. And I think, Mr. Chairman, this was an implicit thing that I heard, that if we do discuss it at an annual review, I think Mary Hearn volunteered to participate in that discussion. So that's always good to know. Let's see.
Mr. Kennedy, just so we don't move off that topic, April, would you add that to our list of things to discuss at the end of the year?
Sure.
Thank you.
Pervious pavers. They're going to additional landscaping be included on the revised plans, just because given the coverage variances that would help with that, as well as the aesthetic. Now, I don't think we really talked about this, but was this a condition or a discussion that there was going to be the air conditioning and generators would be newer energy efficient ones, which would have the lower noise? Was that just discussion or was that something more, Mr. Chairman?
I think it was just discussion, but unless I'm mistaken,
we would comply with that.
Yeah. Okay. Would you be willing to make that a condition of the application then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And then Mary, you had said something about if we needed to, we would flip the AC and the generator. Is that on the table, or do we need that?
Yeah, whichever is noisiest, we're happy to keep further away from Marianne's sister.
Okay. So minimize the noise. And we had, I think that was it, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask a question? Just one question when you're writing your conditions, Mr. Kennedy?
Sure.
You usually have a time frame within which you want C of O done. Just with COVID still happening and very difficult timing on construction projects, if you could limit whatever time you have to the permitting instead of having CO, we're finding we can't get certain things to finish up houses right now.
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming no problem with that.
I have no problem with that unless anybody else does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was it, Mr. Kennedy, right?
Yes, that was, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, can I have a motion to approve the application as summarized by Mr. Kennedy?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Malingo.
Okay. Mr. Grigg,
Yes.
Mr. Liscombe,
Yes.
Mr. Malango,
Yes.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Ms. Dietz,
Yes.
and Mr. Zenovich.
Yes.
All right,
I
congratulations. Mr.
can't
Walter.
thank you enough. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, and good luck with the house.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, there's no other business. We'll have a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank you,
night.
everybody.
Night.